Chapter 2381. Stone statue. These cultivators were all below the fifth step of the void sky stage, and they actually attacked Zhuowen without any regard for their lives. If Zhuowen did not release his aura, he could understand. However, he had already released the aura of the seventh step of the void sky without reservation, but it was still useless. Zhuowen suddenly blasted out a few palms, knocking out the cultivators who were pouncing at him. He began to feel that something was wrong. This was because the moment he knocked out these cultivators, the cultivators who were originally fighting in front of him all stopped and looked at Zhuowen with unfriendly gazes. Kill! These cultivators actually acted in unison, all of them rushing towards Zhuowen. They actually ignored the divine pill and seemed to have the intention of killing Zhuowen. Zhuowen furrowed his brows. Were these fellows crazy? Thinking of this, Zhuowen waved his sleeve and released the phagocytosis, which surrounded his body. These cultivators did not have any deep grudges with him, and he also realized that something was wrong, so he did not plan to kill them. He only wanted to block this group of people first. Boom, 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 boom. One attack after another came down like rain, and all of them gathered on the phagocytosis around Zhuowen. Although these cultivators' attacks were majestic, it was a pity that the gap between them and Zhuowen was too great, so all of their attacks were easily blocked by the phagocytosis. Zhuowen couldn't help but glance at the ferocious-looking stone statue in front of the building. He realized that the stone statue's mouth had closed at some point in time. Furthermore, the mouth was curled up as though it was smiling. Zhuowen looked at the crazy cultivators around him again. He roughly guessed that all of this should be the doing of the stone statue. Zhuowen waved his sleeve, and a surge of divine power gushed out. Then it turned into a violent gust of wind that spread out in all directions. Instantly, the surrounding crazy cultivators were pushed back by this gust of wind, and they all fell to the ground in a sorry state. The phagocytosis above Zhuowen's head took a step forward and rushed towards the fiendish stone statue. Rumble! Arriving in front of the stone statue, Zhuowen did not hesitate to throw a punch at the stone statue's face. However, Zhuowen quickly realized that his fist energy had hit nothing because the stone statue had already disappeared in front of him at some point in time. Boom! Then, a gust of wind blew from Zhuowen's back. Zhuowen snorted and waved his sleeve. Phagocytosis landed behind him. Bang, bang, bang. The wind behind him instantly punched the phagocytosis 3 times, each punch more terrifying than the last. Zhuowen let out a muffled groan. His body pressed against the phagocytosis, and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. His gaze landed in front of him, and only then did he realize that the statue was supposed to be motionless. At this moment, he appeared in front of him, alive and well, with a strange smile on his face. Bang, bang, bang. The stone statue's attack did not change. It rushed in front of Zhuowen, and its fist energy fell like a torrential rain, smashing into the phagocytosis. Zhuowen could only barely block the stone statue's attack with the phagocytosis in his hand. He was extremely shocked in his heart. How could this stone statue be so powerful? Boom! Zhuowen retreated a few hundred steps, while the 100 or so cultivators all gathered together. Cooperating with the stone statue, they attacked Zhuowen with all their might. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He had suffered a space-time injury because of LV Haotian, and he was far from recovering. Now he could not display his full strength, and this stone statue's strength was not ordinary. It was comparable to the peak of the void sky 8th step. If Zhuowen was still at his peak, he would not be afraid of this stone statue. However, he could not use the power of space-time now. He was only slightly stronger than an ordinary void sky 7th step cultivator. His strength was greatly reduced, and it was indeed difficult for him to encounter this stone statue. Let's get out of here first. Zhuowen punched out, and a terrifying wind blasted the surrounding cultivators away. He immediately unfolded his torch dragon wings and left the place like a bolt of lightning. However, the stone statue obviously did not intend to let Zhuowen go so easily. The stone statue cackled, and its speed was even faster than Zhuowen's. It arrived in front of Zhuowen and punched out, bringing with it a gust of wind. Zhuowen's eyes were gloomy. The stone statue's attack was extremely tricky. It blocked Zhuowen's momentum. If Zhuowen wanted to avoid the stone statue's attack, he had to retreat. Once he retreated, he would lose the opportunity to escape from this place. There was a group of cultivators behind him. Although Zhuowen did not take these cultivators seriously, they were enough to block Zhuowen for a few breaths of time. At that time, the stone statue would naturally be able to catch up. Then, it would be wishful thinking for Zhuowen to escape. A cold light flashed in Zhuowen's eyes. He did not avoid the stone statue's punch. He suddenly released his phagocytosis and immediately punched out. Boom! The terrifying punch passed through the phagocytosis and fiercely blasted into Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. He forcibly endured the punch. Immediately after, the torch dragon wings suddenly spread out. His speed instantly soared to the extreme, and he quickly bypassed the stone statue. The stone statue obviously did not expect Zhuowen to use this move. The moment Zhuowen bypassed Zhuowen, its body stiffened. It did not stop Zhuowen at all. Whoosh! Just like that, Zhuowen completely left that area. Then, the torch dragon wings did not stop and quickly flew into the distance. By the time the stone statue reacted, Zhuowen was already gone. Roar! The stone statue's ferocious face revealed anger. It seemed that there was a restriction in this building, and he could not leave at all. He could only watch as Zhuowen gradually disappeared into the distance. The crazy cultivators in the building continued to kill each other. The dead cultivators were devoured by the stone statue. As they were devoured, the stone statue's aura continued to grow stronger. Zhuowen landed in a safe area in the Gobi Desert. His eyes were full of gloominess. The appearance of this building in the Gobi Desert was too strange. Zhuowen did not see such a dangerous place in this place at all. Could it be that the second elder was tricking him? Zhuowen grabbed the tortoise from the spirit ring and said, "Do you know what this is?" Zhuowen showed the image of the stone statue to the tortoise. The tortoise's eyes flickered, revealing a trace of surprise, but it quickly regained its calm and said calmly, "I don't know anything about this thing. It's useless to ask me." Zhuowen sneered. He did not care about the Emperor Pill fire, but he had to know about the stone statue. After all, he had just experienced a moment of life and death. Although the stone statue was not strong enough to kill him, he had a feeling that the stone statue was not simple. If he stayed there for a long time, something would definitely happen. Moreover, Zhuowen had another idea. He did not believe that there were no treasures in such a dangerous place. He later thought about it. The places that the second elder had marked for him were all absolutely dangerous places. In other words, there were no treasures in the guide, but pure danger. Since this place was not marked, there was only one possibility. This was not a pure danger place, but a treasure place. A treasure place full of danger. Chapter 23:82. Luo Shan. Fortunately, Zhuowen couldn't use the space-time ability right now, so he wasn't the stone statue's opponent. However, the Divine Pill's secret realm would be open for a long time. Zhuowen could find enough Divine Pills to increase his strength and heal his space-time injuries. At that time, he could find the stone statue to settle the score. Speaking of which, Zhuowen had left behind a surveillance video in the dilapidated building. Zhuowen had a clear understanding of the situation inside. Next time, if Zhuowen wanted to come here again, he could use the mark he had set up to find this place. Now, Zhuowen needed to find a way to heal the space-time injuries on his body. The best way to do so was to find high-grade divine pills. The divine pills in the divine pills secret realm were naturally formed. They more or less contained Tao ripples. These Tao ripples were very helpful for Zhuowen to heal his space-time injuries. After Zhuowen consumed a drop of heavenly domain starry sky essence, he left this place. He planned to go somewhere else to find other divine pills first. In the blink of an eye, 1 month had passed. In this 1 month, Zhuowen relied on the guide map and understood more than 30% of the divine pill's secret realm. Correspondingly, he also obtained a lot of divine pills. However, what disappointed Zhuowen was that most of the divine pills he obtained were level 7 and below. As for level 7 and above divine pills, he hadn't seen them yet. It was obvious that it wasn't easy to find high-grade divine pills in the divine pills secret realm. Although most of the divine pills that Zhuowen had obtained were divine pills below level 7, because the divine pills were naturally formed, they contained a rich Tao aura, and their medicinal effects were much higher than divine pills of the same level. Moreover, the Tao ripples in the divine pills were very beneficial to Zhuowen's space-time injuries. At least in this 1 month, Zhuowen had used the Tao ripples in the divine pills to heal some of the space-time injuries on his body. Now, Zhuowen could use the space-time ability. However, if he wanted to use the space-time ability, it might be a little difficult. Other than that, Zhuowen's divine power had also increased greatly, leaping from the early stage of Void Sky 7th step to the middle stage of Void Sky 7th step. Zhuowen believed that as long as he had enough high-grade divine pills, he would be able to reach the peak of the Void Sky 7th step before the divine pills secret realm closed. Is someone attacking the stone statue? Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he discovered that the monitoring array formation he had set up around the stone statue had been destroyed. The last scene transmitted by the monitoring array was the battle in the ancient building. The monitoring array was not deliberately destroyed, but accidentally hit by the aftermath of the attack. Lu Haotian. In the last image, Zhuowen saw a familiar figure. It was Lv Haotian. Of course, there were other people besides Lu Haotian, but they were all small fries. Zhuowen's eyes became solemn. Just now, he casually glanced at the image and discovered that Lv Haotian and the stone statue were evenly matched. This made Zhuowen suspicious. How did the stone statue become so strong? Lv Haotian was an expert in the Enlightenment realm, but he was only evenly matched with the stone statue. Although Lv Haotian had the upper hand, the stone statue was still undefeated. This already explained the problem. This stone statue increases its strength by sucking the blood essence of cultivators. Isn't this improvement too fast? Zhuowen recalled that in the past month, there were many cultivators who entered the building and fell into madness. They killed each other and were finally devoured. At first, he did not feel the increase in strength of the stone statue. Now that Lv Haotian was fighting with the stone statue, he immediately discovered that the stone statue's strength had changed dramatically compared to a month ago. What the hell is that thing? If you still don't tell me, I will kill you at all costs. Zhuowen took out the mysterious tortoise again and asked coldly to the image of the stone statue. This time, the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes was even more intense, and he almost did not hide it. He knew that this tortoise's character was a bit of a bully. He was afraid that only a tough method could make this tortoise listen to him. Sure enough, after the tortoise felt Zhuowen's killing intent, it subconsciously shrank its neck and finally sighed softly. The divine pill's secret realm is actually in a mess. This is not something but a Rakshasa. This thing is crazy, bloodthirsty, and violent. the more it devours flesh and blood, the more terrifying the Rakshasa's strength is. Speaking of this, the tortoise's eyes were very complicated, and there was a trace of sadness in them. Zhuowen frowned slightly. This was the first time he had heard of a Rakshasa. This thing really relied on devouring flesh and blood to quickly increase its strength. According to what you said, as long as this Rakshasa devours enough flesh and blood, it can continue to become stronger and eventually reach the enlightenment realm or even the heaven-breaking realm. Zhuowen asked doubtfully. The tortoise sneered. Enlightenment realm? Heaven-breaking realm? Aren't you overestimating the Rakshasa and underestimating the enlightenment realm and the heaven-breaking realm? A creature like the Rakshasa that can only increase its strength by absorbing the flesh and blood of other living beings definitely can't reach the enlightenment realm. Even the Rakshasa king of the Rakshasa can't reach the enlightenment realm. At most, it can reach the two extremes of life and death. After all, this world is still fair. Rakshasas don't need to cultivate to obtain powerful strength, but they are still limited to the enlightenment realm. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly. From the tortoise's words, it seemed that there was more than one Rakshasa, and there was an even more powerful Rakshasa king. Do you have many Rakshasas in the divine pill's secret realm? Zhuowen asked tentatively. The tortoise said indifferently, "This has nothing to do with you, and you don't need to know. I've already explained this thing to you. Can you let me go now?" Zhuowen shrugged and said, "No, you'd better stay by my side during this time." Zhuowen ignored the tortoise's angry eyes and stuffed it into the spirit ring again. Then he turned into a breeze and swept toward the ancient building in the desert. LV Haotian was not a fool. If Zhuowen could think of this place as a treasure land, this old guy would definitely think of it as well. This time, this old guy happened to be entangled with the Rakshasa. If Zhuowen didn't take advantage of this opportunity, he would be really stupid. After a while, Zhuowen stopped quite far away from the building and watched the battle in the building from afar. He even restrained his aura. At this moment, LV Haotian was fighting the Rakshasa in the ancient building alone, while the rest of the cultivators stopped outside the building and watched the battle in awe. Their cultivation wasn't high, but they also knew that once they entered the building, if their willpower wasn't strong enough or their cultivation wasn't enough, they would quickly fall into a state of madness. At that time, they would become crazy and sink forever. Zhuowen silently watched the battle between LV Haotian and the stone statue. He found that LV Haotian had completely gained the upper hand and was firmly suppressing the Rakshasa. Chapter 2383, Candle of Death. I should rush in when the two are at their most anxious moment. Zhuowen silently watched the battle in the building. He could see that LV Haotian had not used his full strength. Although the battle between the two was quite fierce, if Zhuowen rushed in now, LV Haotian would definitely seize the opportunity. At that time, Zhuowen would probably be besieged by LV Haotian and Rakshasa. At this moment, the battle between LV Haotian and Rakshasa was getting more and more intense. The terrifying aftermath of the battle was like a monstrous wave rolling in all directions. However, this building was also quite strange. Although the surroundings looked empty, there seemed to be a layer of powerful membrane blocking the aftermath of the battle between LV Haotian and Rakshasa inside. There were quite a number of cultivators watching the battle. However, none of them were affected by the battle. This caused the spectators to become restless. Zhuowen's gaze landed behind Rakshasa, where there was a wooden platform. This platform was originally where Rakshasa sat cross-legged. Now that Rakshasa had left, the platform immediately revealed a hole. This hole was big enough for a person to get in. Since Rakshasa had been sitting on this hole, it proved that the inside of this hole was definitely not simple. Zhuowen even believed that the treasures in this treasure land must be hidden in this hole. Zhuowen silently lurked. Although Rakshasa had been suppressed by LV Haotian and seemed to have no power to resist, Zhuowen knew that even if Rakshasa's strength was not as good as LV Haotian, he probably still had some tricks up his sleeve. Otherwise, why would he guard this treasure land? Therefore, Zhuowen was not in a hurry. Even if Rakshasa was on the verge of collapse, he was still not in a hurry. Moreover, as Rakshasa became weaker and weaker, Zhuowen also found that the layer of power that affected the mind in the building had weakened a lot. Many of the cultivators who were originally wandering outside were in an uproar. The reason why they did not dare to enter the building was naturally because of the power that Rakshasa had set up inside the building. This power had a great influence, and cultivators with weak willpower could easily get lost. Now that this power had begun to weaken, they naturally felt it. Now that the influence of this power was gone, and the hole was so close, how could they not be tempted? Whoosh! Finally, a figure wanted to fish in troubled waters. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he shot towards the hole in the building. Since there was a first person, there would naturally be a second. Numerous silhouettes rushed out and rushed towards the hole. For a moment, the originally cold and cheerless building suddenly became much more lively. These cultivators rushed forward in a chaotic manner, causing the rather large building to appear somewhat crowded. LV Haotian, who was dealing with Rakshasa, cursed inwardly. He didn't expect the mind-affecting energy in the building to weaken because of Rakshasa. The reason why he could fight the Rakshasa with such ease was naturally because of this layer of power. This force was very strange. It would affect cultivators below the 8th step of the Void Heaven stage, although there were quite a few cultivators above the 8th step this time. This force was very powerful. However, the divine Pale Mystic Realm was so big and randomly distributed. The number of 8 steps Void Heaven cultivators that could be found in the same place could be counted with one's fingers. LV Haotian wasn't afraid, even if there were Void Heaven 8-step cultivators trying to take advantage of him. With his strength, it was naturally easy for him to deal with them. But now it was a mess. LV Haotian could naturally deal with 1 or 2 people. However, almost 100 people had rushed in at once. With so many people, it was basically impossible for him to deal with Luo Sha and obstruct these people at the same time, unless he gave up on Luo Sha and got rid of these cultivators who had rushed in. However, Rakshasa was suppressed too miserably by LV Haotian. He had almost reached the point of exploding with rage. How could he let LV Haotian go? LV Haotian waved his sleeve and immediately blasted out several rays of mysterious life divine power. Immediately, several people around him were blasted into powder by the mysterious life divine power. Unfortunately, there were too many people who escaped the net. In addition, the Rakshasa was only targeting him. This made LV Haotian frown, and he was both angry and anxious. Boom, boom, boom. Soon, the first batch of cultivators rushed towards the hole. Suddenly, a strange black flame gushed out from the high platform below the hole. As soon as the first batch of cultivators came into contact with the black flame, their bodies spontaneously ignited. Although some cultivators tried their best to extinguish the flames on their bodies, they sadly found that the more they tried to extinguish the flames, the stronger the flames burned. In the end, they were burned to ashes by the black flame. With so many cultivators dying in an instant, the cultivators who rushed over felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. They froze on the spot and looked at the high platform with fear. Under the high platform, a 1-foot-tall black candle appeared. The candle's wick burned with a black flame. Although the black flame looked weak like a remnant light, no one dared to ignore the candle's flame. One had to know that when the black candle appeared, a black flame gushed out. Moreover, the black flame was not ordinary. Once a cultivator came into contact with the black flame, there was no way to extinguish it. In the end, they could only watch as their bodies were burned to ashes by the black flame. At the same time, the screams became more frequent. The cultivators who had planned to rush towards the hole retreated because of the sudden appearance of the black candle. However, they forgot that behind them was the battlefield of Hautien and Rakshasa. Some of the cultivators who retreated were immediately shrouded by the terrifying aftermath of the battle and then were blown to pieces. Hautien did not hold back at all. In other words, he deliberately used his full strength. The aftermath of the battle that spread out was much more terrifying than at the beginning. Many cultivators did not even have time to react before they were blown to pieces by the terrifying aftermath of the battle. In the dark, Zhuowen looked at the black candle that appeared from the high platform and frowned. He felt a chill down his spine from the black flame of the candle. It was clear that the black candle was not simple. "Let me out." Suddenly, the tortoise's spiritual sense came from the spirit ring. Zhuowen frowned and had to release the tortoise. As soon as the tortoise came out, it stared at the black candle that appeared in the building and said gloomily, "Why did the death candle appear? This thing should not appear here." Could it be, when Zhuowen saw the tortoise's expression, he knew that the tortoise knew about the strange black candle? "What is the death candle?" Zhuowen asked doubtfully. The tortoise turned a deaf ear to him. Instead, it looked at Zhuowen seriously and said, "Can you do me a favor? I think you can also see that this is a treasure land. However, it has been occupied by Rakshasa, so this treasure land is full of danger." Chapter 2384. Saliva Zhuowen's pupils shrank, but he sneered and said, "Do you want me to court death? This so-called death candle isn't an ordinary item. Do you think I have the ability to put it away?" Zhuowen had seen the might of the death candle with his own eyes just now. It was already very good that he could break through the death candle's flame. Now, he was asking him to put away the death candle. Was he tired of living? The turtle shook its head and said, "Although the death candle's might is terrifying, it's not invincible. This turtle can temporarily control the death candle's flame. With my saliva, when the time comes, you can put away the death candle." Zhuowen looked at the turtle with a strange gaze. What was this guy talking about? Why was he so retarded? He actually wanted to use his saliva to control the death candle. Was this a joke? However, Zhuowen saw that the turtle's serious face didn't seem to be lying. His eyes flickered, and he said, "Are you sure you want to use your saliva?" The turtle coldly snorted and said, "Have you heard of turtle saliva? That's a supreme treasure. Ordinary turtle saliva can prolong one's life, but this turtle is not an ordinary turtle. This turtle's saliva is a rare treasure." Zhuowen's head was full of black lines. He was just treating this turtle as fart. Also, don't worry. Once the death candle leaves the ground, the flame will immediately extinguish. Only when it touches the ground and absorbs the earth energy will it reignite the death candle. The turtle said again. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. If this turtle was right, as long as he put away the death candle, everything would be fine. However, he was still a little worried that this turtle was unreliable. "Boy, you can only trust me now. Otherwise, do you have any other way to enter the treasure land?" The turtle said indifferently, "Then I'll trust you this time." Zhuowen nodded and said. After saying that, Zhuowen began to pay attention to the battle in the building in front of him. He saw that Rakshasa was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Most of the cultivators who had entered had died. Only a small number of cultivators had escaped. These few cultivators' legs were weak outside. They probably didn't dare to enter the building to court death. Roar! The Rakshasa's eyes were red. With a cracking sound, the stone-like skin on his body shattered. A black shadow suddenly shot out from the countless fragments of the clay statue. At this moment, Rakshasa's appearance had changed drastically. He had a handsome face, but his body was covered in ferocious scales. He looked somewhat like a dragon man. Boom, boom. Rakshasa, who had broken free from the shackles of the stone statue, had undergone an earth-shattering change in his strength. His attacks had become fiercer and fiercer, gradually reversing the situation of Ni Feng's battle. LV Haotian clearly did not expect the Rakshasa to undergo such a transformation. Caught off guard, he was struck by the Rakshasa and fell into a disadvantageous position, retreating repeatedly. Die! Luosha's eyes were red as his sharp claws bombarded LV Haotian like a torrential rain. Lu Haotian snorted coldly. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out. The mysterious life divine energy turned into a boundless hurricane and blasted out in all directions. Suddenly, the surrounding space seemed to have exploded, and a rumbling sound rang out. The Rakshasa was immediately forced back dozens of steps by the punch. LV Haotian took a step forward, and his right fist moved along with his body. His right fist, which had been retracted, was like a hunting snake. He punched out heavily and smashed directly at the Rakshasa's chest. The Rakshasa wailed as he was smashed to the ground. LV Haotian naturally pursued the Rakshasa. Based on the principle of taking advantage of his weakness, he planned to kill the Rakshasa immediately. However, just as LV Haotian landed on the Rakshasa's body and was about to blow his head off with a punch, a black shadow rushed in from outside the building at an extremely fast speed and went straight to the hole. LV Haotian was taken aback for a moment, and then the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. He knew that the hole was protected by the strange black candle. Wasn't this person asking for trouble by trying to break in? LV Haotian had also seen the power of the candle of death. Although he was confident in his strength, he was not 100% confident that he could break the candle. However, when LV Haotian saw the true face of the black shadow, waves immediately surged in his heart. He gnashed his teeth and said, "Zhuowen, I didn't expect it to be you. You still dare to appear in front of me today. It seems that the heavens have opened their eyes." LV Haotian recognized Zhuowen, and his mind fluctuated, which was immediately captured by the Rakshasa. The Rakshasa was very smart. The moment LV Haotian's mind fluctuated because of Zhuowen, he roared and burst out with all his strength, blasting at LV Haotian's chest. LV Haotian recognized Zhuowen, and his killing intent surged. In addition, he was too arrogant, so he didn't pay too much attention to the Rakshasa. When the Rakshasa's fist hit his chest, he realized it. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Puchi! LV Haotian groaned and flew out, spitting out a mouthful of blood. He gloomily looked at the Rakshasa that got up and continued to rush towards him. The Rakshasa didn't even look at Zhuowen. Obviously, he also realized that Zhuowen's aura was too weak. If he wanted to enter the treasure land, he would definitely be finished. Thus, he simply ignored Zhuowen. Seeing the Rakshasa's indifferent attitude, a smile appeared on Zhuowen's face. Soon after, he took out the tortoise without any trace of politeness and said, "Hurry up and spit on me. If this method doesn't work, I'll use you to block the candle flame and turn you into a real roasted tortoise." The turtle rolled his eyes and said, "Don't worry. This is a matter of life and death. Do you think I'll play around?" With that, the turtle very humanely spat out a mouthful of saliva, which fell on the candle flame. Sure enough, the candle flame became a lot weaker. The turtle spat out saliva again. After spitting several times, the candle flame became extremely weak. It hurriedly said, "Hurry up and put it away." Zhuo Wen's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He grabbed the candlestick and immediately put it into his spirit ring. Moreover, Zhuo also found that the death candle was indeed as the turtle said. After putting it away, the candle flame was indeed extinguished. After putting away the death candle, Zhuo didn't hesitate. He turned into an afterimage and entered the cave. At this moment, the Rakshasa rushed towards LV Haotian. LV Haotian was also ready to face the Rakshasa. At this critical moment, LV Haotian saw Zhuo put away the death candle and disappear into the cave. LV Haotian's whole body trembled, and he became sluggish for a moment. Although it was only for a moment, it caused the momentum he had accumulated with great difficulty to be broken in an instant. At the same time, the Rakshasa's attack arrived as expected. Boom! After LV Haotian came back to his senses, he could only hurriedly block it. However, he was still blasted back by the attack and vomited blood. Bastard! Chapter 2385. A huge harvest. Luo Sha's eyes were filled with fear. The purple halberd's might was vast and mighty, giving him a life-threatening feeling. Luo Sha also used his full strength. His hands blasted out, and boundless black energy swept out like a black fog, blasting towards the purple halberd. Puchi! Unfortunately, the purple halberd was too terrifying. The moment it came into contact with Luo Sha's hands, it pierced through them. LV Haotian twisted his right hand, and Luo Sha's hands were instantly crushed into nothingness. Then LV Haotian flicked again, and the purple halberd erupted with a dazzling purple light that pierced through Luo Sha. From bottom to top, Luo Sha's entire body was torn into pieces. The moment Luo Sha was dealt with, LV Haotian's face turned slightly pale. The blood at the corner of his mouth had already dripped onto his chest, dyeing it cherry red. This damn little bastard. If I catch up to him, I'll definitely let him taste the feeling of living a life worse than death. LV Haotian gloomily looked at the hole on the high platform. If it weren't for Zhuo, he wouldn't have been bombarded twice by Luo Sha and ended up in such a sorry state. Luo Sha's attacks were not light. Although LV Haotian's cultivation was high, his injuries were not light. However, LV Haotian had no intention of healing his injuries at all. Instead, he chased Zhuo into the hole. Firstly, there must be a treasure in this hole, and secondly, he also wanted to get rid of Zhuo as soon as possible. This time, he comprehended space-time divine ability, which was already a threat to him. Moreover, he was only at the 7th step of the void sky. If he allowed him to advance to the 8th step of the void sky, LV Haotian didn't know if he could kill him. Therefore, taking advantage of the fact that he hadn't grown up yet, it was best to strangle him in the cradle. However, the moment LV Haotian entered the hole, a terrifying black flame rushed over and instantly wrapped LV Haotian's entire body. LV Haotian's pupils shrank. Only then did he realize that there was a black candle standing behind the hole. Due to LV Haotian's approach, the candle flame immediately turned into a huge dragon and pounced towards LV Haotian. LV Haotian continued to stimulate the profound divine power to expel the surrounding black flames, and at the same time, he continuously retreated. This black fire was truly strange. Once it came into contact with it, it seemed to be endless. No matter how LV Haotian used the profound life divine power, it was difficult to completely expel it. In the end, Lu Haotian spent an hour before he was barely able to get rid of the black flames on his body. His clothes were also burned full of holes by the black flames. L.V. Haotian's originally heavily injured body was now a bit worse because of the black fire. "Zhuowen, you little bastard, this old man and you are irreconcilable," Lu Haotian roared. How could he not know that the death candle was deliberately placed behind the hole by Zhuowen? Zhuowen's purpose was to wait for Lu Haotian to approach, catching him off guard and contaminating him with the black fire. If Lu Haotian was prepared, he would not be so embarrassed. Unfortunately, he subconsciously thought that the candle had been taken away by Zhuowen, so he was not prepared at all. Taking a deep breath, L.V. Haotian calmed down. He took a step with his right foot and rushed toward the hole. Another black fire rushed out and pounced on L.V. Haotian. At this moment, L.V. Haotian was already prepared, so the moment the black fire pounced on him, he immediately covered his body with the profound life divine power and used it to resist the black fire. Sure enough, the black fire was not contaminated by anything, so it was not that terrifying. L.V. Haotian also took a step forward and entered the hole. The power of the black fire was not simple. In just an instant, L.V. Haotian realized that his profound life divine power had been consumed by a lot. After entering the hole, L.V. Haotian originally planned to put away the death candle, but when he realized that the candle flame on the death candle was getting more and more terrifying, he could only give up on this plan. His injuries were serious, and the black fire consumed too much of his profound life divine power. If he forcefully put away the death candle, the success rate would be very low. With unwillingness in his heart, L.V. Haotian entered the hole and muttered in a low voice, "Let's take down Zhuowen first. This candle is not urgent." After entering the hole, Zhuowen realized that he had come to another world. This was a valley that was like a paradise. Inside, there were birds chirping and flowers fragrant, streams flowing gently, waterfalls flowing straight down, and clouds and mist lingering around. Above this fairyland-like valley, above the clouds, Zhuowen could feel an extremely rich medicinal fragrance. This medicinal fragrance filled the entire valley, causing people to feel relaxed and comfortable just by smelling it. Zhuowen jumped up and rushed towards the clouds in the valley. The clouds and mist above the valley were actually restrictions that blocked the divine sense. So even though Zhuowen's divine sense was powerful, he could not see what was above the clouds. Of course, when he smelled this medicinal fragrance, Zhuowen did not need to look to guess that what was above the clouds was most likely a divine pill. Furthermore, it was not a divine pill, and the quality of the divine pill would not be low either. The moment Zhuowen jumped into the clouds, he was completely shocked by the scenery above the clouds. The clouds and mist above were rolling like dragons, and within the rolling clouds and mist there were many colors. If one were to take a closer look, they would realize that these colorful clouds were not mist. Instead, they were divine pills of different colors. Such a large cloud was dyed with divine pills. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the number of divine pills above was. Zhuowen swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and his eyes turned red. After being stunned for a moment, he unceremoniously used his divine sense to form a giant hand and frantically collected the divine pills rolling above the clouds. He found that most of the divine pills here were level 3 and level 4 divine pills, followed by level 5 and level 6 divine pills, and there were fewer level 7 and level 8 divine pills. As for level 9 divine pills, Zhuowen did not find any. Zhuowen also knew that these naturally formed level 9 divine pills were much more powerful than those refined in the outside world. Therefore, level 9 divine pills were extremely rare in the divine pill secret realm. As for the life or death pill, it was even rarer. The divine pill secret realm had opened so many times, and this time it was rumored that it would appear, and it was not necessarily accurate. Zhuowen cleaned up for half an hour before he finally collected all the divine pills above the clouds into his spirit ring. He casually counted, and found that the number of divine pills he collected this time was more than 10,000. Although most of them were relatively low-level divine pills, there was no lack of level 7 or level 8 divine pills. It could be said that Zhuowen's harvest this time was many times greater than his harvest in the previous month. After collecting these divine pills, Zhuowen looked left and right again. After confirming that there were indeed no extra divine pills, he slowly descended from the clouds. "Hey, I say, you should take back the candle of death now, right? I still have something to confirm." As soon as Zhuowen landed on the clouds, the tortoise's divine sense had already passed over. Previously, when Zhuowen placed the candle of death behind the cave, the tortoise was already very unhappy. Now that Zhuowen had obtained all the divine pills in this treasure land, the tortoise naturally wanted to propose to Zhuowen about the candle of death. "Don't worry, I'll go get it now." Zhuowen smiled slightly. Just as he was about to return, he saw a figure rushing over from the entrance of the valley. Chapter 2386. The pursuit was no stranger to this figure. Wasn't this LV Haotian who chased after him? LV Haotian obviously noticed Zhuowen as well. He sneered and took a step forward, rushing straight towards Zhuowen. "Little bastard, I didn't expect you to be here. Today, I will cripple you." The moment LV Haotian saw Zhuowen, his eyes were bloodshot. Mysterious life, divine energy circulated around his body, making him look like a terrifying beast. Zhuowen's eyes turned solemn. He immediately summoned the phagocytosis, and his sleeves bulged with divine energy. Although LV Haotian had suffered serious injuries, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. LV Haotian's strength was not weak. Even if he was injured, he was still stronger than Zhuowen. Bang! LV Haotian's fist landed on the phagocytosis, and Zhuowen couldn't help but retreat a few steps. Zhuowen's eyes lit up with joy. LV Haotian's strength was much weaker than before. If LV Haotian was at his peak, this punch would be enough to force Zhuowen back, making him vomit blood. But now, Zhuowen only retreated a few steps, and there wasn't even any serious injury on his body. LV Haotian also realized that his strength had weakened due to his injuries. He snorted coldly, waved his sleeve, and took out the purple halberd from his spirit ring. LV Haotian didn't hold back at all. He could see that his injuries were too serious, and his strength was severely damaged. But he was confident that even if he was seriously injured, he could still kill Zhuowen. Boom! Holding the purple halberd, LV Haotian's momentum was vast and mighty. His terrifying attacks were like a storm pouring down on Zhuowen. The purple halberd was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. It blasted on the phagocytosis. Suddenly, the space exploded, and the entire valley trembled. As for the clouds above the valley, they were sent flying by the force emitted by the purple halberd. It looked extremely strange and terrifying. On the other hand, Zhuowen's pupils shrank as a strong sense of danger stimulated his brain. When the purple halberd struck the devouring seal, Zhuowen felt as if a mountain was collapsing. He felt as if he was about to collapse. Puchi! Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. The phagocytosis was actually blasted away. The purple halberd turned into a purple light, piercing through the phagocytosis and stabbed towards Zhuowen's vital parts. If Zhuowen were to be struck by this purple halberd, he would most likely lose half his life. Zhuowen was a little flustered. He took out one defensive divine artifact after another from his spirit ring. Most of the defensive divine artifacts were obtained from the spirit rings of the cultivators he had killed in the past. Now, Zhuowen was also desperate. Even the phagocytosis was blasted away by LV Haotian's purple halberd. He could only use this method to try to block the purple halberd. Unfortunately, Zhuowen's method was obviously useless. The defensive divine artifacts he took out from his spirit ring were shattered into pieces by the purple halberd almost as soon as he took them out. Zhuowen sighed in his heart, looking at the defensive divine artifacts being shattered one by one in front of him and the approaching purple halberd. He knew that if he didn't think of a way, he would be seriously injured by the purple halberd. He might even lose his life. At present, the only thing that could get rid of LV Haotian was Zhuowen's space-time wheel. However, it took a certain amount of time to activate the space-time wheel. Now that it was a critical moment, how could Zhuowen have the time to activate the space-time wheel? When the purple halberd smashed all the defensive divine artifacts in front of him, Zhuowen's heart was full of helplessness. The defensive divine artifacts in his spirit ring were basically polished, and there was nothing left to throw. Seeing that the purple halberd was about to hit his chest, Zhuowen gritted his teeth and took out the tortoise from his spirit ring. The tortoise's shell was hard. It was definitely the hardest thing Zhuowen had ever seen. His king's sword was not an ordinary object. It almost shattered the tortoise's shell. It could be seen that this tortoise was unusual. "Hey, I say, little brat, what are you doing? Do you want to use me as a shield?" The tortoise's 4 limbs were crawling. When it saw the sharp purple halberd, it couldn't help but cry out. Zhuowen didn't care about the tortoise's cries and threw it in front of him, blocking his path. At the same time, the purple halberd instantly blasted over, and the tortoise quickly shrank back into its shell. Ding! The clear and melodious sound was like pleasant music that continuously resounded, and waves of curses and cries of pain came from within the tortoise shell. LV Haotian's pupils shrank. Looking at the tortoise shell that inexplicably blocked in front of him, he was surprised that the tortoise's shell was so hard. Taking advantage of the moment when the purple halberd was blocked by the tortoise shell, Zhuowen waved his sleeve and summoned the space-time wheel. He stepped on it and activated the space-time wheel. Whoosh! In just an instant, the space-time force wrapped the entire space-time wheel, including Zhuowen. Then, Zhuowen turned into a stream of light and quickly rushed out of the valley. Of course, before he left, Zhuowen took back the tortoise as well. "Don't even think about leaving." LV Haotian coldly snorted, put away the purple halberd, and chased after him. Zhuowen looked at LV Haotian, who was firmly following behind him, and cursed in his heart. He was shocked that LV Haotian's speed was so fast. However, Zhuowen was relieved that the space-time wheel's speed was indeed fast. Although LV Haotian was firmly following behind, Zhuowen found that the distance between him and LV Haotian was constantly increasing. In terms of speed, LV Haotian, a life enlightenment realm cultivator, was still much slower than the space-time wheel. "We're almost at the exit. If you plan to get the death candle, quickly prepare your saliva," Zhuowen quickly said, holding the tortoise in his hand. At this moment, the tortoise was already dizzy from the purple halberd's attack and had yet to recover. Now that it was reminded by Zhuowen, it shook its head to sober itself up. When Zhuowen came to the entrance of the cave, he immediately stopped. The tortoise spat out its saliva and weakened the death candle's flame by 90%. Zhuowen's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick, and he grabbed the death candle in his hand. Boom! Zhuowen's delay allowed LV Haotian, who was behind him, to immediately catch up. The purple halberd turned into a terrifying purple shadow, cut through the space, and shot towards Zhuowen's back. Zhuowen took a deep breath, grabbed the tortoise that had just spat out its saliva, and used it as a shield again without hesitation. God-damned Zhuowen. The tortoise just said such a sentence, and immediately retracted its head into the tortoise shell. It could only helplessly endure LV Haotian's attack again. Boom! The tortoise cursed in pain, and Zhuowen groaned. His right hand that was holding the tortoise was blasted into a bloody mist by the terrifying force. Chapter 2387. Death Valley. Grabbing the turtle, Zhuowen activated the space-time wheel and left the cave with a swoosh. LV Haotian rushed out from behind with a gloomy look in his eyes and chased after Zhuowen. When Zhuowen and LV Haotian rushed out of the cave, it immediately attracted the attention of the cultivators who were still watching outside. It's that Zhuowen. He was actually not killed by LV Haotian in there. This kid is not simple. Didn't you see the flying divine tool under his feet? That speed is so fast that even LV Haotian can't catch up. That's right. LV Haotian is a life enlightenment realm expert. His speed far surpasses that of cultivators below the void sky 9 steps. This kid's cultivation is not high, but he actually relied on that flying divine tool to make LV Haotian unable to catch up. It can be seen how terrifying and fast this flying divine tool is. After Zhuowen and LV Haotian left, the voices of discussion surged like a tide. Not long after, a figure came back from the distance. Everyone looked and found that it was LV Haotian with a gloomy face. Obviously, LV Haotian's pursuit of Zhuowen was a failure. LV Haotian was also quite depressed. He didn't expect that Zhuowen actually had such a powerful flying divine tool. He was actually able to shake him off. That bastard only went in for half an hour. There should be more treasures in this treasure land. LV Haotian once again rushed into the cave, hoping to find something good inside. Unfortunately, when he came out again, his face was even uglier. There was indeed a different world inside the cave, but there were no divine pills he wanted inside. Apart from the valley, there was nothing else. How could LV Haotian not know that the real good things inside should have all been plundered by Zhuowen? Zhuowen rode the space-time wheel and sped all the way out of the Gobi Desert. He came to a lush forest. He stopped on the branch of a huge towering tree and breathed a sigh of relief. His whole back was pressed against the thick and huge trunk, and the space-time wheel was also put away by him. The turtle was lying on the branch and slowly stretched out its head. Judging from its movements, the turtle was obviously still dizzy. Bastard, you bastard. You used me as a shield twice. You'll be struck by lightning one day. The tortoise roared at Zhuowen indignantly. Zhuowen, however, was noncommittal and said with a smile, "Speaking of which, I have to thank you. If you didn't help me, I wouldn't be able to escape so easily." With that, Zhuowen solemnly nodded at the turtle, although Zhuowen didn't trust this turtle too much. After all, this turtle helped him block 2 fatal attacks, so Zhuowen was still grateful to this turtle from the bottom of his heart. Seeing Zhuowen's good attitude, the turtle didn't continue to flare up. Instead, it said with a little pride, "Of course, you don't know who this turtle master is." Back then, the turtle realized that it might have spilled the beans and quickly closed its mouth. Then it looked at Zhuowen and said, "The candle of death is with you, right? Take out the candle of death. I have a use for it." Zhuowen nodded, took out the candle of death, and put it in front of the turtle. After the candle of death was put down, the extinguished candle flame reignited, and a black flame turned into a ferocious head, rushing towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen hastily retreated, but the tortoise reacted quickly and stood in front of Zhuowen. It spat out a mouthful of water and blocked the candle flame. "You are Zhuowen, right? I need your help." The turtle's eyes were serious, and it turned to Zhuowen and said, "What do you need my help with?" Zhuowen was a little confused. It was the first time he had seen the candle of death, and the turtle had such a serious expression when it saw the candle of death, as if something ominous was about to happen. The tortoise sighed softly and said, "I can see that your divine sense is very powerful. Can you give me a hand and combine our divine senses. Then we will enter the flame of the candle of death together and see what is happening in Death Valley. Death Valley? What is that place? Zhuowen asked in surprise. The turtle didn't hide anything and said, Death Valley is the core area of the Divine Pill's secret realm, and it is also the most dangerous place. Even a cultivator who has reached the 9 steps of the Void Sky realm has a high chance of dying in Death Valley. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. The Death Valley mentioned by the turtle should be the core area of the Divine Pill's secret realm mentioned by the second elder. It was also the place where the life or death pill appeared. However, Zhuowen didn't expect that the core area of the Divine Pill secret realm was called Death Valley. This candle of death is something from Death Valley? Why would it appear outside? Zhuowen quickly thought of the candle of death. Your guess is right. The candle of death is indeed from Death Valley, and the Rakshasa I told you about is also a creature from Death Valley. I don't know why the Rakshasa and the candle of death appeared outside, so I wanted to investigate the candle of death, hoping to see what happened inside. The turtle nodded and said, hearing this, although Zhuowen was still a little vigilant in his heart, he actually believed it a little. This candle of death was indeed a little strange, and it didn't fit in with the environment outside, and the Rakshasa was the same. I know that you suspect me. However, don't worry. I have not deceived you in this matter. If I have deceived you in the slightest, the heavenly Tao will send down lightning punishment and directly annihilate me. The turtle saw Zhuowen's hesitation and hurriedly swore an oath to the heavenly Tao. Zhuowen nodded and said, if that's the case, then I will listen to you, but if I find any danger, I will immediately withdraw my divine sense. Don't worry, there won't be any danger this time. I just want to see what happened in Death Valley. That's all. The turtle shrugged and said, let's begin now. Place your divine sense on my turtle shell, and then my divine sense will guide you. The turtle said again. Zhuowen was a straightforward person. As soon as the tortoise finished speaking, he extended his consciousness and landed it on the tortoise shell. Soon after, he discovered that another cold consciousness swept out from the tortoise shell and immediately began to combine with his own. Zhuowen knew that this divine sense should belong to the turtle, so he didn't resist. Not long after, Zhuowen and the tortoise's divine sense completely fused together. Moreover, Zhuowen discovered that the tortoise's divine sense was extremely cold. It was like a block of ice that would never melt. When the two's divine senses combined, the turtle controlled the divine sense to approach the candle of death, and very soon it poured into the flame of the candle of death. Zhuowen frowned slightly. When his divine sense combined with the turtle entered the candle of death, he felt a burning sensation. Chapter 2388, Big Black Hand. Fortunately, the turtle's divine sense gave him a cool feeling, which dispelled most of the burning sensation. As his divine sense continued to penetrate deeper into the death candle, Zhuowen saw the raging black flames, which were becoming more and more vigorous, turning into a boundless sea of fire. Inside the vigorous black flames, Zhuowen's eyes became confused. Then he saw the outline of an image appear in the flickering black flames. The image was blurry at first, but as the black flames became more vigorous, the image became clearer. Inside the black flames, Zhuowen saw a black valley covered in black fog. The mountain range surrounding the valley was not the usual black, but a black that was as translucent as black jade. In the center of the black valley, there was an altar. Around the altar stood 9,998 black candles, each of them a foot long. Each of the black candles was burning with black flames. The death candle. Zhuowen looked at the 9,998 black candles in a circle, and his pupils shrank, and he couldn't help but mutter to himself, "Sure enough, it's missing a death candle. That Rakshasa really escaped from the Death Valley. The turtle's voice also sounded. Zhuowen could hear the helplessness and sigh in the turtle's voice, and there was also a trace of worry and fear. "What is this altar?" Zhuowen asked in a deep voice. The tortoise let out a light sigh and said, "It's the seal used to suppress the Rakshasa king. Although I don't know how the Rakshasa king managed to take away the death candle and escape from the Death Valley, I know that if this continues, the Rakshasa king might break out of the seal. At that time, everyone in the divine pill's secret realm might die." Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He had heard from the turtle that the Rakshasa king was the king of all Rakshasa kings. Its strength was terrifying, and it was said that at its peak, it was at the two extremities of life and death. With such strength, it was impossible to find an existence comparable to the Rakshasa king in the entire 8 heavens. If a Tao-confirming expert did not appear, it would be difficult for others to suppress the Rakshasa king. "Who is it? How dare you spy on me?" Suddenly, an evil and powerful voice sounded. Zhuowen felt his mind explode, and the pain was unbearable as if needles were pricking him. "Hurry up and leave. This Rakshasa king has indeed awakened. Damn it!" The moment the evil voice sounded, the voice of the tortoise suddenly became filled with panic and fear. It quickly took Zhuowen's divine sense out of the death candle. "Since you're here, then stay." The evil voice resounded again, and then an illusory black hand suddenly extended from the altar and grabbed at the combined consciousness of Zhuowen and the tortoise. "Let's go." The tortoise screamed and hurriedly retreated. Unfortunately, its speed was not as fast as the black hand. On the other hand, Zhuowen's gaze was calm and collected. His consciousness was much stronger than the turtle's, and he was also proficient in the soul slain method, so Zhuowen was not afraid of the black hand that extended out. To put it bluntly, this black hand was also formed from divine sense, and Zhuowen's soul slain was aimed at divine sense. Seeing the black hand reaching out, the tortoise revealed an expression of facing death. It knew that the divine sense it had separated would definitely not be able to escape this devil's grasp, so it simply planned to wait for death. Soul slain. Zhuowen's gaze was calm as he immediately used the soul slain method. Immediately, his divine sense turned into a murderous aura that strangled towards the black hand. Boom, boom, boom. The black hand obviously did not expect that this weak divine sense would dare to resist, and even more so, it did not expect that Zhuowen, who had used the soul slain method, would have such a sharp divine sense. The black hand was instantly shattered. "Let's go." The moment Zhuowen broke the black hand, he immediately retreated. When Zhuowen and the tortoise's divine sense withdrew from the candle of death at the same time, Zhuowen opened his eyes. His face was as pale as snow, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Although the battle of divine sense just now only happened in an instant, only Zhuowen, the person involved, knew the danger involved. Fortunately, the owner of the black hand did not care much about their divine sense, so it was only a casual attack that was broken by Zhuowen's soul slain method. But even so, Zhuowen's divine sense was seriously injured. Of course, only a part of his divine sense was seriously injured. With Zhuowen's current powerful divine sense, he could quickly make up for the damaged divine sense. The tortoise opened its eyes, looked at Zhuowen strangely, and said, "Kid, you're not bad. You actually know divine sense method. It seems that I've underestimated you." "I was lucky to learn it," Zhuowen said indifferently. The tortoise looked at Zhuowen and knew that he was being perfunctory, but it didn't care. Instead, it said with a serious look, "I'm afraid I still need you to do me a favor, and that is to help me enter the Death Valley. We must put the candle of death back in its original position. Otherwise, when the Luosha king appears, the divine pill's secret realm will be completely closed, and everyone will die at that time." Zhuowen's eyes flickered and said, The Death Valley is the core area of the Divine Pill's secret realm. I heard that even a Void Sky 9 Steps expert will die if they enter there. Aren't you just sending me to my death? You saw it just now. The Luosha King has already awakened. If we don't take action, you will also die, so it's better to take a risk. The tortoise said. Zhuowen fell into hesitation. There was no need to say how dangerous the Death Valley was. Originally, Zhuowen only wanted to enter the Divine Pill's secret realm to obtain a Divine Pill and break through to the next realm. He also didn't want to enter the Death Valley in the core area of the Divine Pill's secret realm. Now that the tortoise suddenly said this, he was naturally hesitant. I know that so many cultivators came here this time for the life or death pill, right? If you help me enter the Death Valley, I will help you obtain the life or death pill. That thing is definitely a supreme treasure for you cultivators. The tortoise was a little anxious, and it immediately mentioned the life or death pill. And you know where the life or death pill is? Zhuowen looked at the tortoise in shock. The tortoise said, I am a creature of the Divine Pill's secret realm, so I naturally know more about what happens in the Divine Pill's secret realm than you. Naturally, I know about the birth of the life or death pill, and I also know its specific location. As long as you help me, I will help you obtain the life or death pill. Zhuowen thought for a moment, then finally nodded and said, Okay, if you can really help me obtain the life or death pill, then I will not go back on my words and help you enter the Death Valley. Seeing that Zhuowen had agreed, the tortoise let out a sigh of relief. It looked at the direction of the core area of the Divine Pill's secret realm with a complicated expression and murmured in a low voice, I hope I can make it in time. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for me to explain to that old man. Zhuowen naturally heard the tortoise's murmur. Although he was curious about the old man, he didn't ask rashly. The tortoise's origin was not simple. In addition, this guy actually knew the location of the life or death pill, and this tortoise was very familiar with the things in the Death Valley. Zhuowen suspected that this tortoise might be related to the master of the Divine Pill's secret realm. Chapter 2389. Evil Spirit, follow me to the direction of Death Valley first. The distance from here to Death Valley is not short. Even with your flying divine tool, I'm afraid it will take 1 or 2 months. The turtle said. Zhuowen nodded and directly summoned the space-time wheel. He also summoned Xiaohe and let Xiaohe and the turtle drive the space-time wheel. He planned to use the remaining time to cultivate. The divine pills he had on him were extremely terrifying. He believed that so many divine pills were enough for him to cultivate for a long time. Moreover, he could also rely on the Taoist rhyme in these divine pills to repair the space-time injuries in his body. Time passed by minute. 1.5 months later, the space-time will stopped in a mountain range. Zhuowen also woke up from his meditative state. It seems that the divine pills in this secret realm are quite magical. Not only did they repair all the space-time injuries in your body, but they also helped your cultivation reach the peak of the Void Sky 7th step in one fell swoop. Landing in the mountain range, Xiaohe sat on the hilt of the Thunderfire sword and looked up and down at the white-robed young man with a strong aura. Zhuowen smiled slightly. In the past 1.5 months, he had indeed gained a lot. Not only did his space-time injuries recover, but because he constantly absorbed the Taoist rhyme in the divine pills, his use of the space-time force was more flexible and powerful than before. Not only that, Zhuowen's consumption of the space-time divine ability was not as great as before. Moreover, he could now barely use the space-time divine ability twice. Of course, after using the space-time divine ability twice, Zhuowen would be exhausted and would be at the mercy of others. Unless he could now advance to the Void Sky 8th step, Only then would he have some strength left after using the space-time divine ability twice. Zhuowen was now confident that if he faced Lu Haoqian again, although he was no match for him, at least he had the ability to escape. Is the Death Valley in front? Zhuowen stood in the mountain range and looked into the distance. Tens of thousands of miles away, there was a rolling black fog that looked like a giant beast. Zhuowen knew that the Death Valley that the tortoise had mentioned was hidden within the rolling black fog. The tortoise nodded and said in a deep voice, "The Death Valley is not easy to enter. Although I know the specific location of the life or death pill, just to be on the safe side, you should enter the Death Valley with me first. After replenishing the death candle, I will help you obtain the life or death pill." Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed dangerously. He coldly looked at the tortoise, and the latter also looked directly at Zhuowen without any hesitation, without any unnecessary explanation. "Are you worried that Rakshasa King will escape?" Zhuowen asked. "Yes, we should be the first to arrive at Death Valley, so we still have a lot of time. That Rakshasa King is definitely not a small matter. We have to get rid of him first, or else there will be endless trouble in the future." The turtle said seriously, "If that's the case, then let's do as you wish." Zhuowen nodded and did not raise any objections. The tortoise looked at Zhuowen strangely. It didn't expect that Zhuowen would suddenly become so straightforward. "Many thanks." The tortoise looked gratefully at Zhuowen, then pointed to the south of the black fog tens of thousands of miles away, and said, "Let's go to that direction first, and then I will tell you the way to enter the Death Valley." Zhuowen nodded and pinched the tortoise, then turned into a stream of light and rushed toward the direction pointed by the tortoise. Landing at the periphery of the Death Valley, Zhuowen frowned slightly. He had not yet entered the Death Valley, but he could already feel a strong, evil aura assaulting his face. This aura made Zhuowen uncomfortable all over, and it was very cold. "I can't see what's going on inside at all from here. Even my divine sense can only reach a range of 100 meters. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He had just tried to use his divine sense to enter the black fog, but he found that his divine sense was completely restricted. In this environment where the black fog lingered, he couldn't find the specific entrance to the Death Valley at all. "Wait for me." The tortoise's gaze was dignified. The restriction on its body had already been removed by Zhuowen, so it could now move freely. The tortoise floated outside the black fog, then stretched out its two small hands and quickly formed hand seals in the black fog, and finally spat out a mouthful of saliva. The dense black fog in front of them automatically parted to form a path, revealing a secluded path behind them. Both sides of the path were still covered in black fog, but this path extended all the way to the end, with no end in sight. "Let's go in. This secret passage hasn't existed for long." The tortoise turned to look at Zhuowen and said. Zhuowen observed the path, hesitated for a moment, and then followed the tortoise into the secluded path. After walking on this path for about 2 hours, they finally walked out of the path, and what appeared in front of Zhuowen was indeed a valley. This valley was very large, and although the black fog was thinner than the outside world, there was still a lot of it, and Zhuowen's divine sense was also completely suppressed. Zhuowen, that secluded path was set up by the master of the secret realm, so it is very safe, but once you enter the Death Valley, you have to be vigilant. In here, death follows you like a shadow. The tortoise reminded Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded, and just as he was about to speak, a sense of crisis immediately crept into his heart, and then he subconsciously squatted down. Boom! About a foot above Zhuowen, a huge axe was flying towards him. It was a long-handled axe, and the handle was rusty bronze, and the axe head was broken. At first glance, the axe looked harmless, but Zhuowen's heart was thumping wildly. The axe smashed into the ground behind Zhuowen and immediately blasted open the ground. countless gravel accompanied by a terrifying force scattered in all directions. Zhuowen only had time to take out the emperor's sword to block in front of him, and was blasted back by the force. In midair, Zhuowen twisted his waist and lightly landed on the ground, and then he looked ahead with a serious gaze. Behind the huge long-handled axe, a huge figure slowly walked over. This figure was about 3 meters tall, which was more than half of Zhuowen's height. When Zhuowen saw the figure's appearance, his eyes narrowed because this tall figure was not human but a half-rotten corpse. The figure's head was almost full of rotten flesh, and its face was covered with white squirming maggots, and its 2 empty eye sockets were filled with bright blood, as if tears of blood were flowing from its eye sockets. This figure's body was covered in tattered clothes, like the clothes of a beggar. Chapter 2390. Altar roar. The tall, evil spirit let out a roar and suddenly took a step forward. Every step it took caused the ground to tremble. Zhuowen, who was prepared this time, easily dodged the evil spirit's attack. He stood on the evil spirit's head with his sword and sent it flying. The head was sent flying, and the evil spirit knelt on the ground, completely motionless. The tortoise looked at Zhuowen in surprise and said, "Have you fought with evil spirits before? How do you know that the evil spirit's weakness is its head?" Zhuowen smiled faintly and declined to comment. It was the first time he had encountered an evil spirit. However, when he was in the skeleton realm, he had encountered an undead spirit similar to this one. Back then, the undead spirit's weakness was its head. Only by sending its head flying could the undead spirit be completely killed. Since this evil spirit was similar to the undead spirit, Zhuowen decided to give it a try. He succeeded. Thump, thump, thump. At the same time Zhuowen killed the evil spirit, the sound of dense footsteps came from all around. Then, in the rolling black fog, figures vaguely appeared. Needless to say, these figures were all evil spirits. Zhuowen, follow my instructions. There are many evil spirits in the Death Valley. You can't kill all of them. Go directly to the core altar of the Death Valley, the tortoise said quickly. Zhuowen nodded and immediately took out the space-time wheel. Together with the tortoise, he took out the Thunderfire sword and the Blood Immortal sword at the same time, and let the 2 guys deal with the evil spirits around them. The space-time wheel was extremely fast, although evil spirits often jumped up in the surroundings, intending to completely stop Zhuowen. They were basically blown away by the Thunderfire sword and the Blood Immortal sword in advance. Of course, Zhuowen also assisted the Thunderfire sword and the Blood Immortal sword. After all, the deeper they went, the more evil spirits there were. Fortunately, these evil spirits were not very strong. Although Zhuowen was a little tired, he managed to hold on. Sword Dragon slashes the sky. Zhuowen slashed out with his sword. Terrifying sword chi condensed into 9 sword dragons that shot out in 9 directions. Immediately, the surrounding evil spirits were reduced to dust by the 9 sword dragons. Unfortunately, these evil spirits were like cockroaches that could not be killed. The evil spirits at the back leaped forward one after another as if they did not care about their lives. There are too many evil spirits. How far is that place? Xiaohe could not help but roar. Zhuowen looked at the turtle, and the turtle looked ahead. It said in a deep voice, "We're almost there. All the evil spirits in Death Valley are gathering here. I'm afraid that Rakshasa King knows that we're here. These evil spirits were all summoned by that guy. Zhuowen, can you still hold on?" Zhuowen looked ahead and found that the altar was indeed not far away. However, there were so many evil spirits in this place that it made one's hair stand on end. Every evil spirit was crowded together, and there was almost no gap to speak of. Not far from the altar, countless evil spirits were piled up together, forming a very tall hill. These evil spirits were all inside, and they were all baring their fangs and claws at Zhuowen. Damn, there are too many of them. Kid, what should we do now? Xiao He asked Zhuowen while blocking the evil spirits around him. It was also a little scared, as there were too many evil spirits. Zhuowen took a deep breath and pointed with his right finger. Suddenly, countless ripples spread out, and these ripples transformed into a boundless sea. At the end of the sea, a waning sun rose. The waning sun quickly rose to its peak, and a terrifying power radiated and exploded around the sea. Then, countless evil spirits that were close to the sea were all blasted into dust by this power. Moreover, this power was continuous. The evil spirits that pounced at Zhuowen were all shattered before they could even get close. Rumble! At this moment, the space-time wheel had already arrived in front of the small hill of evil spirits. Countless evil spirits were being destroyed, but because there were too many of them, although these evil spirits were constantly being destroyed, there was still a large number of evil spirits that pounced at Zhuowen through the corpses of other evil spirits. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He pointed with his right hand again, and the waning sun that had risen to its peak suddenly fell. Its speed was so fast that it instantly arrived in front of Zhuowen. The huge waning sun slammed heavily on the evil spirit mountain. Then a terrifying ripple exploded, and the huge evil spirit mountain was smashed into dust. All the evil spirits inside were annihilated into nothingness. Not only that, but the evil spirits that were constantly rushing over were also destroyed by the aftermath of the waning sun. At this moment, Zhuowen, dressed in white, was standing on the space-time wheel. Around him was a vast sea formed by the space-time power. Above his head was the waning sun, making him look like a god. Zhuowen jumped down and landed in front of the altar. The altar's layout was very simple and looked ordinary. On the contrary, the 9,998 death candles that were arranged around the altar were extremely spectacular. The candle flames on these death candles were connected to each other, forming a circle of black flame. It looked like a person's black eye. However, to the north of the death candle, there was a gap where one of the death candles was missing. Zhuowen knew that the gap should be the position of the death candle in his hand. Quickly place the death candle on that gap. The turtle hurriedly said. Zhuowen nodded and did not dare to be negligent. He took a step and came to the gap in the north of the death candle. He took out the death candle and planned to place it on the gap. Just as Zhuowen placed the death candle on the gap, a dignified cold snort sounded, like countless muffled thunder exploding in his mind. Zhuowen's body stiffened, and his eyes revealed a confused look. Then a big black hand stretched out from the altar and grabbed at Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen, wake up quickly. Not far away, the turtle naturally saw this scene and hurriedly sent a message to Zhuowen through divine sense. Unfortunately, Zhuowen seemed to be in a daze and did not move at all. It was as if he was quietly waiting for the big hand to grab him. Poochie! Zhuowen suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and the confusion in his eyes completely disappeared. At this moment, the big black hand had swept in front of Zhuowen and could completely grab Zhuowen's head in the next moment. Zhuowen summoned the phagocytosis, and at the same time used the space-time ability Waning Sun on the sea again. The waning sun rose again, and the terrifying power of the waning sun was like an explosion, constantly erupting above the big black hand, causing the big black hand to stagnate for a moment. Relying on this moment of stagnation, Zhuowen immediately placed the death candle in the gap. Whoosh! The moment the death candle was placed in the gap, the circle of death candles suddenly connected, and then a terrifying black flame erupted from the 9,999 death candles. Chapter 2391. Abyss of Hell. Bastard, Alchemy Emperor Turtle, you've ruined my plans. When I come out, I'll never let you off." An evil voice suddenly erupted from the altar. Then Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he discovered that an extremely terrifying force was surging out from the altar. It instantly broke through the black flames, intending to leave the range of the death candle. Unfortunately, even though the power was forceful, the black flames that were transformed from the 9,999 death candles were so fearsome that they forcibly blocked the fearsome power. Zhuowen was shocked when he saw this scene. Although the force inside the altar was blocked by the black flames, it was still not enough. However, even through the black flames, Zhuowen could still feel the terror of this power. If he had to face this force, Zhuowen knew that he would definitely die. The terrifying force in the altar struggled in the black flames for a full 10 breaths of time. After discovering that it could not break through the black flames, it roared and drilled back into the altar. "Just a little bit more, just a little bit more, and I'll be able to get out. Alchemy Emperor Turtle and you, Human Cultivator, if I, Luo Sha King, have the chance to get out, both of you will die miserably." A mournful voice kept coming from the altar. Obviously, Luo Sha King was not willing to give up. Zhuowen sat on the ground, paralyzed. His face was extremely pale. Using the waning sun over the sea twice had consumed too much of his energy. After consuming the heavenly starry sky essence, he had to recuperate well. Moreover, after the altar was resealed, the surrounding evil spirits also dispersed and wandered aimlessly in Death Valley. This altar was the core of Death Valley. Zhuowen would not be in danger here. After all, the greatest danger was Luo Sha King. Since Luo Sha King had been resealed in the death candle, the other evil spirits would definitely not dare to approach this place. Therefore, this place was the safest. Zhuowen stayed here for 3 days. By swallowing divine elixirs and heavenly domain starry pith, he had almost recovered from his injuries. Zhuowen stood up and looked around. He couldn't help but look at the turtle next to him and asked, "I heard that Death Valley is full of dangers. Even Void Sky 9 Steps cultivators would die there. But why don't I feel any danger?" The tortoise lay on the ground and said indifferently, "That's because of me. I gave you the safest route. Although you are strong, without this safe route, you would have died without a doubt." The safest route? Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He knew the safe route that the tortoise had mentioned, and he had worked hard to reach this place. If it wasn't for his space-time god art, he would have been torn to shreds by the countless evil spirits. It was hard for him to imagine if he could reach the core area of Death Valley if he encountered the other dangerous routes mentioned by the tortoise. And you know what? The real danger of Death Valley isn't these evil spirits, but the hell abyss that can be seen everywhere in Death Valley. The hell abyss is distributed around Death Valley, and it doesn't appear at a fixed time. Once you fall into the hell abyss, even a life-enlightening realm cultivator will die without a burial place. Although a life-enlightening realm cultivator might be able to escape danger, it's still a disaster. The tortoise sneered. When Zhuowen heard this, he was even more moved. It seemed that he had really taken advantage of this time. If it wasn't for this tortoise, he wouldn't have been able to reach the core area of Death Valley. That Rakshasa King said that you are an Emperor Pill tortoise and you know so much about Death Valley and even the Divine Pill's secret realm. Are you related to the master of the Divine Pill's secret realm? Zhuowen asked in a deep voice. He didn't ask before because he didn't trust this tortoise. Moreover, his relationship with this tortoise hadn't reached that level yet. Now that he and this tortoise had experienced the sealing of Rakshasa King at the same time, their relationship had become much closer. Zhuowen knew that now was the best time to ask. As expected, the tortoise hesitated, but in the end, it nodded and said, "If that's the case, then I'll tell you. I'm an Emperor Pill tortoise. Back then, I followed my master, the Emperor Pill Fire. And the Emperor Pill Fire is the master of this divine pill's secret realm. And this Rakshasa King and Rakshasa King were both created by my master. Rakshasa is the product of evil spirits' evolution. There are countless evil spirits in Death Valley, and they usually kill each other. In the end, the strongest evil spirit will transform into a Rakshasa. But Rakshasa King is a different kind of existence. My master didn't expect that a monster like Rakshasa King would be born. Although Rakshasa King couldn't prove his Tao, his strength had reached the pinnacle of the life and death realm. He's much stronger than ordinary life and death realm cultivators. Moreover, Rakshasa King was arrogant and unruly. Because of my master's strength, Rakshasa King didn't dare to act recklessly. Later, when my master returned to this secret realm with serious injuries, Rakshasa King led an army of Rakshasa and evil spirits to besiege my master. In the end, my master defeated him and sealed him in Death Valley. When the Emperor Pill Tortoise said this, it was quite emotional. Emperor Pill Fire, your master was also a Tao confirming expert, right? And has your master fallen? Zhuowen asked tentatively. The Emperor Pill Tortoise shook its head and said, I'm not sure whether my master has fallen or not. After he sealed Rakshasa King, his whereabouts were unknown. He just asked me to guard this divine pill's secret realm and Death Valley before leaving. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He once again thought of the Tao confirming expert who was dismembered on the blood-stained cliff. Whether it was the mysterious head on the blood-stained cliff or the Emperor Pill Fire, they were all Tao confirming experts from ancient times, but their fates were so miserable. Could it be that something big happened in that ancient era and all the Tao confirming experts disappeared because of it? Do you know why your master was injured? And why haven't we seen any Tao confirming experts in the 8 heavenly domains? It's as if they have disappeared. Zhuowen asked. The Emperor Pill Tortoise shook its head and said, It's useless to ask me. I only gained sentience later, so I don't know what happened in that era. As for the 8 heavenly domains you mentioned, I have heard about them. But I remember my master saying that the 8 heavenly domains didn't exist in their era. The 8 heavenly domains appeared later. Zhuowen frowned. It seemed that the 8 heavens had even deeper secrets, especially regarding Tao confirming powerhouses. This caused Zhuowen to ponder on a deeper level. Zhuowen sighed in his heart. He knew that his current level was still too low. Once his cultivation reached the 9 steps void sky, he would be able to come in contact with the lords of the 8 heavens. At that time, he would be able to learn the secrets of the 8 heavens. Moreover, he knew that although the lords of the 8 heavenly domains stood at the peak of the 8 heavenly domains, none of them were Tao confirming experts. Even the Nadi Shiva domain's Sakyamuni was not a Tao confirming expert. At most, he was in the life and death boundary. In addition, Zhuowen wondered if the heaven-breaking essence of the 8 heavenly domains was really the heaven-breaking essence. Chapter 2392. Meeting Ma Yuchia again. Are we going back the way we came? Zhuowen stood up and asked the alchemy emperor Turtle. That path can only be entered, not exited, and I need to find something. Take me there. You don't have to be suspicious, because the place I'll take you to is the place where the life or death pill is about to appear, the alchemy emperor Turtle said. Zhuowen's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he said, Then you lead the way. I'll take you there. The alchemy emperor Turtle nodded and was about to guide Zhuowen to the location of the life or death pill when its expression suddenly changed. What's wrong? Zhuowen could not help but ask when he noticed the change in the alchemy emperor Turtle's expression. The alchemy emperor Turtle's expression became serious. It took a deep breath and said, Someone found the path I opened and came in. Zhuowen was surprised. Ever since Zhuowen and the Alchemy Emperor Turtle entered the path. The entrance was covered by black fog. Ordinary cultivators could not find it at all. But now, the Alchemy Emperor Turtle directly said that someone had entered the path. This was really unbelievable. Who could see through the cover of the black fog? What should we do now? Should we leave or wait for that person to appear? Zhuowen asked. The Alchemy Emperor Turtle took a deep breath and said, I left a mark on the path, so I know that someone has entered it. Looking at the path, he seems to be very familiar with it. I'm afraid he's coming for the altar. Let's wait here first. Zhuowen had no objection to the Alchemy Emperor Turtle's suggestion. After the two found a hidden place, they used a powerful restriction formation to completely hide the place. Zhuowen also restrained his aura. After waiting like this for 2 hours, a figure appeared in Zhuowen's line of sight. This figure was very bloated. Obviously, it was a fat man. The fat man tiptoed closer to the altar and walked around it. He clicked his tongue in amazement and said, There are actually 9,999 death candles here. That's quite a lot. When the fat man arrived at the north of the altar, his face was completely revealed to Zhuowen. When Zhuowen saw the fatty's face, he was surprised. He was not unfamiliar with the fatty. In fact, he was very familiar with him. Do you know this person? The Pill Emperor Turtle noticed Zhuowen's strange expression and asked, Yes, I've met this person a few times. Zhuowen said ambiguously. The Pill Monarch Turtle nodded and said, This person was able to discover that path, so he must be extraordinary. However, how many times have you met him? Are you a friend or a foe? Zhuowen rubbed his forehead and said, We're neither enemies nor friends. I don't know what kind of relationship we have. The Pill Emperor Turtle glanced at Zhuowen with a slightly speechless expression. After that, it looked towards Ma Yujia, who'd stopped at the north of the altar, and said, From the looks of it, he seems to be rather familiar with Death Valley. Why has he come to the altar? Zhuowen shook his head and stared at Ma Yujia, who had stopped outside the altar's seal. To be honest, he knew too little about Ma Yujia. When he released Ma Yujia from the ice tower, he didn't get any information or background from Ma Yujia. Ma Yujia put his hands behind his back and turned his back to Zhuowen. He seemed to be thinking about something. I didn't expect there to be a seal in Death Valley. I wonder what's inside the seal. Let me try to break it. Ma Yujia muttered to himself. His voice was not soft, so Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle could hear him clearly. The Pill Emperor Turtle sneered. The 9,999 death candles were set up by its master, the Pill Emperor Flame. How could this fat man have the ability to break the seal? Of course, Ma Yujia naturally did not know that the Pill Emperor Turtle was secretly laughing at him. His gaze became solemn as he waved his sleeve and released several array flags. These array flags spread out and floated above the altar. They began to rotate rapidly. The altar was already surrounded by black flames, forming a black hemispherical light shield. It looked strange and strange. The array flag rapidly rotated, and soon after, it released a dark blue energy ripple. It suddenly rushed out and blasted on the black flame round cover. Bang! The terrifying black flame swept out and instantly turned into a big mouth. It completely swallowed the array flags in the sky. The temperature of the black flame was terrifying. The moment the black flame swallowed the array flags, the terrifying black flame melted them into nothingness. Hee, what an ignorant fool. In the dark, the Pill Emperor Turtle sneered. Its eyes were full of pride. Ma Yujia shook his head and said in surprise, It's really terrifying. Which almighty person set up this seal? It's so terrifying. It's useless for me to continue. It's better not to try anymore. Ma Yujie took dozens of steps back and avoided the black flame. He looked at the terrifying black flame in front of him in horror. Let's go check out other places. This Death Valley is really strange. As Ma Yujie spoke, he left the altar and flew in another direction. Soon, his figure disappeared. After Ma Yujie left, Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle came out. Looking in the direction Ma Yujie left, Zhuowen muttered in a low voice, "This guy is a little suspicious. What's suspicious about him?" However, it's really unusual that he could enter that path. It's just that he overestimated himself. He actually tried to break the defense of the death candle. He's simply courting death. The Pill Emperor Turtle mocked. Zhuowen frowned slightly, but did not laugh. Instead, he repeatedly checked the surroundings of the altar. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, he was relieved. "Let's go to the place where the life and death pill is," Zhuowen said to the Pill Emperor Turtle. The Pill Emperor Turtle nodded and said, "Now follow me." Not long after Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle left, a bloated figure slowly appeared from another place. Ma Yujie returned to the altar and looked in the direction Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle left. He narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself, "This Zhuowen is really a big problem. Wherever I go, he will follow." That Lu Haotian wouldn't want this kid for no reason. This kid must have something important on him. When the time comes, I'll have to inquire about it. After saying that, Ma Yujie's gaze fell on the altar again and said with a smile, "The Pill Emperor Turtle is really a genius. Although his strength is not very strong, his means are extremely amazing. He can actually create such an evil creature like the Rakshasa King." Boom! Suddenly, black energy gushed out from the altar inside the black flame and transformed into an illusory head. "Who are you? Did you just wake me up?" This illusory head was the Rakshasa King. Originally, the Rakshasa King was completely suppressed by the 9,999 death candle and fell into an unconscious state. Chapter 2393, Golden Horn Array Flags. Rakshasa King, I see that you really want your freedom, don't you? You've been here for countless years. It must be hard for you, right? Ma Yujie did not answer the Rakshasa King's question directly. Instead, he asked another question. The Rakshasa King said coldly, "You can try. You've been imprisoned here for countless years, and all you've done is make sarcastic remarks." Ma Yujie smiled and did not mind the Rakshasa King's tone. He continued, "I'll give you a chance to get out." The Rakshasa King did not believe him. He sneered. "These are 9,999 death candles. I spent countless years and barely managed to remove one of them. In the end, it was destroyed by that despicable human cultivator and the Pill Emperor Turtle. If you let me out, those two fellows will definitely kill me." Ma Yujie spread his hands and smiled subtly. "Of course, I'm not strong enough to break this seal, but you can. You're much stronger than me." The Rakshasa King sneered, but did not say anything else. He felt that this bloated fatty in front of him was spouting nonsense and was too lazy to answer him. "Ha! Looks like you don't believe me. But it's no wonder. You spent so much time and still didn't see the seal's weakness. You just blindly tried to remove the death candles. Serves you right for being trapped here." Zhuowen smiled faintly. You really have a way." The Rakshasa King was interested. Ma Yujie did not say much. Instead, he waved his sleeve and immediately took out 12 array flags. The 12 array flags he took out this time were completely different from the ones before. They were completely golden, like dazzling and scorching suns. The array flags were as thin as golden paper, but they were filled with an unbearable light. 12 golden horn array flags. The Rakshasa King looked at the 12 glittering array flags in surprise and muttered softly. Ma Yujia waved his sleeve, and immediately the 12 golden array flags overlapped with each other. Golden energy gushed out, converging into a powerful golden stream that fiercely fell, heavily smashing onto the altar that was filled with black flames. The black flames naturally resisted without restraint. However, the golden stream was so powerful that it actually blasted a small gap in the black flames. Then, the golden stream quickly entered the black flames through the small gap. The golden stream that entered the black flames turned into 12 array flags again, and they were inserted in 12 directions around the altar. If one looked at it translation, one could see that the 12 array words translation, the 12 array flags editor. Endless fantasy translation. It's up to you whether you can escape or not. This is all I can help you with. Good luck. Ma Yujia glanced at the altar and the altar, and the Rakshasa king, the altar, and the altar. On translation. The Rakshasa king on is fire, fire, fire. Hee hee, Pill Emperor Flame, I bet you didn't expect the seal you set up to have such a big flaw. After I break the seal, I'll kill that Pill Emperor Tortoise and that human cultivator. Then I'll destroy your divine Pill's secret realm. After that, I'll go out and kill all your Pill Emperor Flame bloodline. This is the abyss of hell. Zhuowen stood in front of a huge pit that was hundreds of meters wide. He looked at the huge pit in front of him in shock. The huge pit was very deep and dark. If one looked carefully, they could see strange black flames burning in the depths of the abyss. Zhuowen was no stranger to the aura of the black flames. It was the flame of the candle of death. It was a flame filled with the aura of death. Yes, the abyss of hell appears without any pattern. You must anticipate and take precautions in advance. Otherwise, you may not even know how you died. The Pill Emperor Turtle shook its head and said. Zhuowen nodded. Along the way, a huge pit that was hundreds of meters wide suddenly appeared on the originally flat ground. Fortunately, the Pill Emperor Turtle reacted in time and immediately asked Zhuowen to use the space-time wheel. In an instant, they left the hundreds of meters area, which allowed Zhuowen to escape from the disaster. When the hundreds of meters wide hole first appeared, Zhuowen couldn't move his body. His whole body trembled as if he had fallen into hell. If it weren't for the space-time wheel, Zhuowen wouldn't have been able to leave the abyss of hell. Now, Zhuowen finally knew why Death Valley was so dangerous and why even Void Sky 9 Steps experts could die here. It was all because of the unpredictable abyss of hell. Fortunately, the Pill Emperor Turtle was very familiar with Death Valley, although it was difficult for him to know where the abyss of hell would appear. It could determine the location of the abyss of hell in advance. This ability to predict the abyss of hell provided Zhuowen with a lot of protection while walking in Death Valley. In Death Valley, it was inevitable to encounter some other evil spirits. However, these evil spirits were basically unorganized and weren't controlled by Rakshasa King like before. Therefore, they didn't pose much of an obstacle to Zhuowen. Under the guidance of the Pill Emperor Turtle, Zhuowen quickly arrived at the eastern edge of Death Valley. The life or death pill is about to appear here. I don't know the exact location, but when the life or death pill appears, I have a way to help you smoothly obtain it. Now, let's leave Death Valley first, said the Pill Emperor Turtle. After saying that, the Pill Emperor Turtle formed a seal with both hands. A complicated pattern appeared on its shell and was reflected in the black fog in front of them. Then, the black fog scattered. Let's go, said the Pill Emperor Turtle. Zhuowen took a step forward, grabbed the Pill Emperor Turtle, and rushed toward the path where the black fog appeared. Soon, they disappeared into the black fog. Not long after Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle left, Ma Yujia also arrived at the place shrouded in black fog. He squatted on the ground, pinched the black soil under his feet, and said with a frown that Pill Emperor Turtle really knows about Death Valley. The life or death pill should appear here. However, this thing isn't very useful to me. After saying that, the corners of Ma Yujia's mouth curled into a strange smile, and he muttered in a low voice, "I will soon get what I want. This life or death pill will be slowly fought over by those ignorant people." After saying that, Ma Yujia didn't follow the path Zhuowen took. Instead, he rushed in another direction of Death Valley and quickly disappeared. Zhuowen opened up a cave on a small hill 1,000 miles away from Death Valley. He planned to wait here for the birth of the life or death pill. Chapter 2394. Gathering in Death Valley, the Pill Emperor Turtle sneered. "What's the use of life and death pill for me? Do you think I'll be able to raise my cultivation like you cultivators after taking the life and death pill? Let me tell you, I'm not a cultivator like you. As for what it is, when the life and death pill comes out, you'll know that thing is even more precious than the life and death pill. But let me say this first, that thing is mine. You can't snatch it from me." Zhuowen smiled and said, "Don't worry, I still have a bottom line. I only want the life and death pill. As for what you want, I won't touch it." In the following time, Zhuowen basically cultivated in his cave. His cultivation had reached the peak of Void Sky's 7th step by relying on many god pills. In the remaining time, he was basically consolidating his Void Sky's 7th step peak stage. Moreover, because he had just reached the peak of Void Sky 7th step, his comprehension hadn't reached Void Sky 8th step, so he couldn't break through to Void Sky 8th step yet. Now, Zhuowen had enough resources. The only thing he lacked was comprehension of Void Sky 8th step. Once he had enough comprehension, Zhuowen would be able to soar into the sky and smoothly reach Void Sky 8th step. As time gradually passed, the monitoring formation Zhuowen secretly placed outside discovered that more and more cultivators were gathering in Death Valley. Because of the opening of the Divine Pill's secret realm, the rumor of the life and death pill was extremely widespread. Therefore, most of the cultivators who entered the Divine Pill's secret realm came for the life and death pill. Among them, there were many old Undyings who had been in seclusion for a long time. Most of these old Undyings cultivations were stuck at half-step Void Sky 9th step. They were only half a step away from reaching Void Sky 9th step. These old Undyings had lived for a very long time. Although their cultivation might not have increased, they were extremely experienced, and their strength was extremely terrifying. In the images sent by the monitoring formation, Zhuowen saw at least a dozen of these old Undyings. Although these old Undyings cultivations were the same as Quang Li's, they were much stronger. Strength and cultivation were two completely different concepts. The difference in cultivation was just a general comparison. Strength wasn't just a display of one's cultivation base. It depended on many aspects, such as powerful magic treasures, divine abilities, cultivation techniques, and so on. These old fogies had lived for a very long time, so they naturally had a lot of opportunities. They probably had a lot of trump cards on them. Unlike Quang Li and the old man from Lushan Temple, whose strength was average, they were very difficult to deal with. Of course, these powerful half-step 9th Ascension cultivators were only in the second tier of this group of people. The ones who were truly at the first level were still the two life-comprehending realm experts, LV Haotian and Jingyun. At this moment, Jingyun was standing in front of Death Valley with the disciples of Desire Palace, Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui. LV Haotian, on the other hand, stood alone on the other side. Compared to Jingyun, who was surrounded by many disciples, LV Haotian seemed lonely. The two formed a sharp contrast. Of course, the reason why LV Haotian was so lonely was because of Zhuowen, the people that Lu Haotian brought this time, including his own son, Lu Zhu, were all killed by Zhuowen. The more LV Haotian thought about this matter, the angrier he became. He wished he could kill Zhuowen right now. Unfortunately, when he tried to deal with Zhuowen, he let Zhuowen escape again and again. Moreover, he also paid a corresponding price. Jingyan narrowed her eyes and turned to look at LV Haotian with a trace of surprise on her face. Although she was blind, her divine sense was very powerful, so she could perceive things much more clearly than others. When LV Haotian arrived, she found that LV Haotian had suffered a serious injury. Moreover, this injury was not an old one, but a new one. He should have suffered it when he entered the Divine Pill's secret realm. But what Jingyan did not understand was that in the Divine Pill's secret realm, other than Death Valley, there was no threat to a life-comprehending realm expert like LV Haotian. Brother LV, did you encounter some trouble in the Divine Pill's secret realm? Anyway, waiting for the birth of the life or death pill was quite boring, so Jingyan asked the doubts in her heart. Hearing Jingyan's question, LV Haotian's face suddenly became ugly. He could not help but think of Zhuowen. He coldly snorted and said, "Palace Master Jingyan, you don't need to care about my affairs. I accidentally injured myself. It's not a big deal." Palace Master Jingyan was quite surprised. This LV Haotian seemed to have something difficult to talk about. What was it that made LV Haotian so embarrassed? On the other hand, there were quite a number of cultivators whispering in the crowd. Many people had clearly seen the scene of LV Haotian chasing after Zhuowen and fighting with Luo Sha. Speaking of which, many people admired Zhuowen. He was obviously only at the 7th level of the Void Sky Realm, but not only was he not afraid of a powerhouse like LV Haotian, but he was also quick-witted and set up layers of traps, making LV Haotian willingly fall into them. Senior sister, I heard those people talking about LV Haotian's injury. It seems to be related to Zhuowen. In the group behind Jingyan, Zhu Rui whispered to Yao Xiangjuan beside her. Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes flickered, revealing a trace of excitement and worry. But she soon calmed down and said with a complicated expression, "I really can't see through Zhuowen. I didn't expect him to be able to make LV Haotian like this." Zhu Rui also nodded repeatedly and said, "I really misjudged him. I originally thought he was just an ordinary 7th level Void Sky cultivator. I didn't expect him to be so strong and crafty." Yao Xiangjuan pursed her lips and smiled, but did not continue the topic. Instead, she was in a daze, thinking, where is Zhuowen now? Will he also come here to compete for the life or death pill? Paper can't wrap fire, and LV Haotian's matter also spread widely among the crowd. Palace Master Jingyan also learned that LV Haotian was in such a sorry state because of Zhuowen. In her heart, she became even more curious about Zhuowen. It seems that Xiangjuan is right. Zhuowen is really not an ordinary person. Palace Master Jingyan secretly said in her heart. LV Haotian coldly snorted and floated in the air, staring coldly at the crowd below. Suddenly, the noisy discussion quieted down. "If you dare to slander this king again, believe it or not, I will destroy your families. That Zhuowen used despicable means to sneak attack me. Do you think I deserve it?" LV Haotian said coldly, but what responded to him was a long silence. LV Haotian waved his sleeve and landed again, but his eyes were fixed on the Death Valley in front of him. "Why is Brother LV so angry? We should work together to find the life or death pill. This is just a trivial matter," Palace Master Jingyan said with a smile. LV Haotian didn't dare to be rude to Palace Master Jingyan. He nodded in agreement and said, "Palace Master Jingyan is right. We only know that the life or death pill will appear in Death Valley, but we don't know where it will appear or when it will appear. Can we just wait like this?" Chapter 2395. The birth of the life or death pill palace. Master Jingyun's suggestion was immediately approved by LV Haotian. The rest of the people also had no objections. Palace Master Jingyun is right. We should spread out and search for it. The birth of the life or death pill won't be so simple. I also agree with Palace Master Jingyun's suggestion. Death Valley covers a large area. How can we gather in one place with so many people? Everyone chimed in one after another. Of course, the reason why they agreed like this was naturally because they considered their own interests. The birth of the life or death pill would inevitably cause a lot of competition. Most of the people here were not strong enough. Needless to say, Palace Master Jingyun and LV Haotian were very strong. Just the dozen or so half-step void sky ninth stage old monsters alone were not something that most of the cultivators could contend against. When the time came, the competition would definitely be between the high-level experts. Most of the cultivators here would be reduced to cannon fodder. Now that the life or death pill had yet to appear, and they didn't know where it would appear, it gave the cultivators a chance to search for it. Everyone had a wishful thinking. In this kind of situation, everyone had the same chance of finding the life or death pill. Now, they didn't have to rely on strength, but luck. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. While everyone was discussing, many cultivators impatiently rushed to other places in Death Valley. Obviously, they didn't want to stay here any longer. Since there was a first person, there was naturally a second. Soon, the cultivators gathered in the eastern periphery of Death Valley scattered and rushed to other places in Death Valley. They didn't know if it was because LV Haotian and Palace Master Jingyun were here, but most of the cultivators deliberately avoided this place. They all knew that if the life or death pill appeared here, LV Haotian and Palace Master Jingyun would be the first to make a move. At that time, they wouldn't have a chance. However, if it appeared in other places, they would have a chance. Therefore, most of the cultivators deliberately avoided LV Haotian and Palace Master Jingyun. Even the dozen or so half-step void sky ninth stage cultivators did so intentionally or unintentionally. They were also very afraid of Palace Master Jingyun and LV Haotian. Palace Master Jingyun, I'll also go look for the life or death pill. LV Haotian cupped his fists towards Jingyun and left. Let's also slowly search for it. The life or death pill should appear in the periphery of Death Valley. Palace Master Jingyun also instructed the disciples behind her. Soon after, she led everyone to patrol around the periphery of Death Valley. Inside the cave, Zhuowen looked at the pill monarch turtle and asked, "When will the life or death pill appear?" "Soon, in a few days. You don't need to rush out. The birth of life or death pill will cause a huge commotion in Death Valley. When that time comes, it will be very chaotic. You should wait patiently." Pill Emperor Turtle replied. Zhuowen nodded and no longer paid attention to Death Valley. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the ground, preparing to wait for the birth of the life or death pill before acting according to the circumstances. 5 days later, the black mist on the surface of Death Valley suddenly churned violently, as if something was about to be released from within. It was accompanied by chilling roars, which sounded extremely strange and terrifying. The numerous cultivators who were originally searching for life-death pills in the periphery of Death Valley also noticed the abnormality in Death Valley, and their eyes were filled with astonishment. Rumble! Suddenly, in the east of Death Valley, the terrifying black mist turned into a black pillar and rushed into the sky. On the surface of the black pillar, countless black mists were swirling and churning like tornadoes. It looked extremely terrifying. Moreover, the crowd also discovered that a white mist had appeared in the black pillar without them noticing. Moreover, the white mist was increasing in number, and it seemed to be on par with the black mist. Soon, the black pillar turned into a black and white pillar. At the top of the black and white pillar, a divine pill the size of a pigeon's egg slowly emerged. This divine pill was black and white. One side was white, and the other side was black. The black and white pattern inside was very similar to the yin-yang fish in Taoism. Is this the life-death pill? In the cave, Zhuowen suddenly stood up. He withdrew the restriction formation of the cave and went to the entrance of the cave. He looked at the black and white pillar in the distance and the black and white divine pill floating at the top of the black and white pillar. Yes, this is the life-death pill. But I say, you can't act rashly now. Otherwise, you will only suffer losses. Pill Emperor Turtle said with a slightly mocking smile. What do you mean? Zhuowen asked in surprise. You will know when you see it. Pill Emperor Turtle said, as he pointed at the black and white pillar in the distance. Zhuowen looked in the direction that Pill Emperor Turtle was pointing at. He saw that beside the black and white pillar, many cultivators who were close to it were rushing madly toward the top of the black and white pillar. However, the moment these cultivators got close to the black and white pillar, their bodies suddenly stiffened. Then, they were completely torn into pieces by the terrifying tearing force of the black and white pillar. The cultivators who had arrived late also planned to rush over. However, when they saw what was happening in front of them, they immediately stopped and looked at everything in horror. There is a very powerful force around the life-death pill. This is... Zhuowen's pupils shrank, and he couldn't help but say, just now, those cultivators who were close to the black and white pillars were all inexplicably torn into pieces. Even Zhuowen did not sense it. That is the life and death force emitted from the surface of the life-death pill. This life and death force is much weaker than the life and death divine force of an expert at the life enlightenment stage, but it is comparable to the mysterious life divine force of an expert at the life enlightenment stage. Cultivators who are not strong enough will simply be cannon fodder. Pill Emperor Turtle sneered and continued, also, what kind of treasure is the life-death pill? It is not so easy to obtain. Zhuowen, you don't need to rush out now. You just need to stay here and watch the show. When it is time to attack, I will remind you. Zhuowen didn't speak. He looked deeply at the life-death pill floating on the black and white pillar in the distance and just nodded. The surging aura of the life-death pill had completely spread throughout the Death Valley. For a moment, it aroused the greed of countless evil spirits in the Death Valley. They all longed to obtain the life-death pill and obtain a new life. As a result, the evil spirits wandering aimlessly in the Death Valley rushed toward the east side of the Death Valley. None of them were afraid of death. Due to the appearance of the life-death pill, the gap in the east side of the Death Valley was opened. Those evil spirits rushed out of the Death Valley unimpeded. What are these things? Why are there so many of them? No, these are not humans. There are too many of them. Save me. No, these things can't be killed. Run. Chapter 2396. Evil Spirit Army. In an instant, the evil spirit army began to fight with the cultivators gathered outside Death Valley. For a time, the sounds of fighting and fighting were like thunder, constantly resounding outside Death Valley. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes as he looked at the countless evil spirits rushing out. He hadn't expected that the birth of the life or death pill would attract so many evil spirits. Moreover, it had even opened a gap in the eastern Death Valley. Death Valley was very large, and the number of evil spirits in it was extremely terrifying. The evil spirits Zhuowen encountered in order to enter the altar in the core area were terrifying enough, but that was only a small part of the evil spirits in Death Valley. This time, The birth of the life or death pill triggered an even larger tide of evil spirits. One must know that Zhuowen's original route was the safest, but now the life or death pill had summoned all the evil spirits in the eastern part of Death Valley. Zhuowen shook his head. He knew that most of the cultivators around Death Valley were going to suffer. The evil spirits weren't weak, and there were even more terrifying evil spirits among them. Coupled with such a large number of evil spirits, the cultivators gathered in Death Valley couldn't stop them at all. Sure enough, the battle between the evil spirits and the cultivators only lasted for half an hour, and the cultivators couldn't stand the increasing evil spirit army in front of them. They all took out their respective flying divine tools and fled this place. Although the life or death pill was precious compared to their lives, the latter was naturally more important. Brother Lu, let's work together. Otherwise, none of us will get the life or death pill. Palace Master Jing Yun waved her jade-like hand, and a bright red flower appeared from her spirit ring. This red flower wrapped Yao Xiangjuan and the other disciples of the Desire Palace, and then it was taken into the palm of Palace Master Jing Yun. Now that Death Valley was in danger, Palace Master Jing Yun naturally didn't dare to let her disciples take risks outside. Not far away, Lu Haotian, who was repelling many evil spirits, also heard Palace Master Jing Yun's proposal. He thought for a moment and nodded. These evil spirits won't affect the two of us much. It's mainly the life and death force around the life or death pill that can only be broken by you and me working together. Palace Mistress Jing Yun nodded. Although there were many evil spirits, she and Lu Haotian were both life-comprehending realm experts. Their life force was as vigorous as the stars in the sky. These evil spirits had no special power to kill them. Of course, it was very difficult for cultivators below the 9th step of the Void Sky stage to injure a supreme expert at the life comprehension stage, because the vitality within the body of a life comprehension stage expert was far beyond the imagination of all cultivators. Back then, the reason why Zhuowen was able to injure Lu Haotian was because of his space-time spirit technique. The powerful space-time divine ability was enough to threaten life comprehension realm powerhouses. If Zhuowen's cultivation was the same as Lu Haotian's at the life enlightening realm, then just by relying on this spirit technique, Zhuowen would be able to kill Lu Haotian in one move. Make your move. She stomped her foot, and countless petals drifted down from her feet. These petals contained Palace Mistress Jing Yun's powerful, mysterious life force. Any evil spirit that wanted to jump up and attack her was basically blasted to smithereens the moment they touched the petals. Lu Haotian didn't dare to be careless. He took out his purple halberd and kicked the end of the halberd with his right foot. Suddenly, the purple halberd turned into a purple light and quickly swept towards the black and white pillar. Lu Haotian turned into a stream of light and followed closely behind the purple halberd. Wherever he passed, the evil spirits were all smashed to smithereens by the sharp edge of the purple halberd. After a while, Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jing Yun arrived in front of the black and white pillar. The moment Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jing Yun arrived at the black and white pillar, the 12 half-step Void Sky 9th-step-old Undyings reached an agreement and joined forces to compete for the life or death pill with Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jing Yun. We must join forces. Fellow Taoists are all rare geniuses. All of you have cultivated to the peak of the Void Sky 9th step and have already touched the threshold of the life-comprehending realm. None of you are ordinary half-step Void Sky 9th step experts. If we join forces, we might not be weaker than Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jing Yun. Among the 12 people, a red-clothed old man said to the others with a sharp gaze. The red-clothed old man was called the Begonia Old Man, and he had the highest prestige among the dozen or so people. This was because the Begonia Old Man was the expert closest to the life-comprehending realm. Moreover, this Begonia Old Man had many trump cards, and he was also proficient in the Chimin Duanjia technique. Most importantly, the Begonia Old Man had once fought with a life-comprehending realm expert. Although he was defeated, he relied on his powerful trump cards to forcibly escape from the life-comprehending realm expert's sure-kill attack. The Begonia Old Man is right. We must join forces. Otherwise, the life or death pill will definitely be snatched by Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jingyun. At that time, it will be like drawing water with a bamboo basket. A black-clothed man echoed. With 2 people taking the lead, the other 10 people nodded. None of them could compete with Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jingyun. However, if they joined forces, they might have a chance. Let's go. Let's go, the Begonia Old Man said. Then he led the other 11 people to ride the wind and break the waves. They exterminated countless evil spirits and arrived in front of the black and white pillars. Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jing naturally saw the Begonia Old Man and the other 12 people. Their eyes revealed a dignified expression. They didn't put any of the 12 people in their eyes. However, if they joined forces, they had no choice but to take them seriously. Begonia Old Man, you better not attack us. Otherwise, none of us will get the life or death pill. Lu Haotian turned his head and said to the Begonia Old Man and the others. The 12 people stopped. Among them, the Begonia Old Man said coldly, Lu Haotian, what do you mean by this? Feel it yourself. Lu Haotian pointed at the black and white pillars in front of him helplessly. The Begonia Old Man took a step forward and came in front of the black and white pillars with doubts. He stretched out his right hand, but it was immediately repelled by a force. Not only is there the life or death force, but there is also a powerful seal. This seal is very powerful. The Begonia Old Man took a few steps back and forcibly suppressed the surging blood in his body. If you want to get the life or death pill, the first step is to break this seal. Otherwise, everything will be in vain. Palace Mistress Jing, Yun said coldly. You mean we should join forces? The Begonia Old Man asked in a deep voice. Palace Mistress Jing, Yun said indifferently. Otherwise, what do you think we can do? After we get rid of this seal, the ownership of the life or death pill will depend on our own abilities. The Begonia Old Man fell into silence. After a while, he said in a deep voice, Okay, we can join forces with you to break this seal. The Begonia Old Man knew that this was indeed the only way. If they started to fight among themselves before they even saw the life or death pill, then no one would have the chance to get the life or death pill. You all join forces and focus on breaking the seal. I will take care of the evil spirits behind. The black-clothed man on the Begonia Old Man's side volunteered, once again. Then I will trouble you. Palace Mistress Jing, Yun nodded. Chapter 2397. Snatching the life and death pill. Everyone, don't hold back. Let's attack together. After L.V. Haotian finished speaking, the purple halberd in his hand suddenly blasted out. A terrifying purple energy spread out and smashed onto the seal as if it could shatter the stars. Palace Master Jing Yun followed closely behind. She formed a seal with her jade-like hands and pointed at the air. Then, the red energy turned into a huge flower tree. As soon as the flower tree appeared, countless petals fell down. The petals grew more and turned into a sea of flowers. The terrifying sea of flowers was like a red flood that suddenly burst out and blasted onto the seal. The moment L.V. Haotian and Palace Master Jingyun attacked, Elder Haitang and the others also attacked without holding back. The terrifying attacks blasted onto the seal, causing it to shake violently. The surface of the black and white pillar was even more distorted under the terrifying power. The explosive force spread out and radiated in all directions. Wherever it passed, many evil spirits directly exploded, dying as they could not be more dead. However, there were too many evil spirits. Although many of them died, there were still more evil spirits coming from behind. This increased the pressure on the black-clothed man. The black-clothed man was not an ordinary person. Although it was difficult for him to resist, he still managed to hold on and keep the evil spirits outside. Boom, boom. The sounds of explosions continued to ring out. Every time there was an explosion, a terrifying wave of energy ripples would spread out. Crack! Finally, a cracking sound came from the restriction on the surface of the black and white pillar. Cracks began to appear on the surface of the black and white pillar, and the cracks became denser and denser as they spread out. Seeing the cracks on the seal, Palace Master Jingyun and the others were all shaken. They all worked hard to release their energy, hoping to shatter the seal as soon as possible. Finally, the seal on the surface of the black and white pillar was completely shattered into pieces. Boom! The moment the restriction shattered, the terrifying power of life and death blasted over mercilessly like a flood from a dam. Palace Master Jingyun, LV Haotian, and the others did not expect such a change to occur when the seal was shattered. They were all involuntarily hit. The 13 of them suddenly retreated hundreds of steps. The blood in their bodies was roiling. Among them, Elder Haitang and the others with weaker cultivation spat out a mouthful of blood and looked dispirited. Palace Master Jingyun and LV Haotian were better. Palace Master Jingyun only looked pale. LV Haotian, on the other hand, had suffered serious injuries because of Zhuowen. He had not fully recovered yet. Now, LV Haotian, who was caught off guard by the life and death energy, his injuries were more serious than before. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The moment all of them retreated, the moment the life and death pills life and death pills life and death energy was released, a figure suddenly leaped out from the countless evil spirits. Son of the sea. A clear and melodious voice rang out. Then, the surrounding tens of thousands of miles of space turned into a vast ocean. At the end of this ocean, a waning sun rose. When the figure leaped up, the broken sun rose as well. A terrifying space-time force spread out like a bomb, exploding continuously. The evil spirits in the surroundings were all blown to pieces by the power of the sun. As for LV Haotian, Palace Master Jingyun, and Elder Begonia, who were originally retreating, their bodies stiffened the moment the sun rose. They could only desperately urge the divine power in their bodies to resist the strange and terrifying power that descended from the sun. Zhuowen, you little bastard! LV Haotian immediately recognized the identity of the figure when he saw the sun's son. However, he had just been blasted back by the life and death energy and had not recovered yet. He was in his weakest state. Moreover, he was blasted by the power of the sun's son. He could only barely hold on. However, LV Haotian knew that as long as he could survive this moment, the mysterious life divine power in his body would be restored to its peak. At that time, it would be the death of this little bastard. LV Haotian, do you think I don't know your plan? I'm afraid I'll disappoint you. Just as LV Haotian was calculating in his heart, Zhuowen's voice suddenly came from above his head. LV Haotian couldn't help but raise his head. Immediately, he saw Zhuowen standing above his head and then ruthlessly stomping on his face with the sole of his foot. Palace Master Jingyun, Elder Haitang, and the others also reacted. They were stunned to see a young man in white raise his foot and ruthlessly stomp on LV Haotian's face. As the saying goes, hit someone but don't hit the face. Now, not only did Zhuowen hit him, but he also ruthlessly stomped on him. This was a great insult to LV Haotian. LV Haotian roared towards the sky. At this moment, his mysterious life divine power had been completely restored. He wanted to completely destroy this little bastard. Zhuowen took advantage of the moment when he stepped on LV Haotian's cheek to suddenly jump. Just as LV Haotian began to reach out to attack Zhuowen, Zhuowen leaped into the air and coldly looked at LV Haotian, who reached out to grab him. He bent his right hand and pointed down. Suddenly, the sunset, which had risen to its peak, fell down at an extremely fast speed. It brushed past Zhuowen and heavily slammed into LV Haotian's body. How could Lu Haotian have thought that Zhuowen would have such a move? His body was directly hit by Sundered Sun, and his extended right hand was smashed into a distorted shape. His whole body fell to the ground in a sorry state, creating an endless pit on the ground. Stop him! Palace Master Jing Yun didn't have time to care about LV Haotian. She took a step forward and rushed towards Zhuowen. Elder Haitang and the others were naturally not to be outdone. They attacked Zhuowen one after another, hoping to stop Zhuowen. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had already taken out the space-time wheel and stepped on it. He disappeared as if he had teleported. When he reappeared, he was already above the life or death pellet. Take the life or death pellet quickly! The Pill Emperor Turtle, who was lying on Zhuowen's shoulder, quickly said. There was no need for the Pill Emperor Turtle to say anything. Zhuowen already knew. He stretched out his right hand, grabbed the life or death pellet, and put it into his spirit ring. Now, take 3 steps back and stop. Don't run. The Pill Emperor Turtle said again. Zhuowen's eyes revealed a puzzled look, but he still subconsciously did as he was told. When Zhuowen stopped, Palace Master Jingyun, Elder Haitang, and the other 13 people had already rushed over. They were only a few centimeters away from Zhuowen. However, the moment they were about to reach out to grab Zhuowen, a huge shadow rushed out from the black and white pillar below and smashed into their bodies. Puchi, the 13 people didn't expect that something would come out from the black and white pillar. They were all smashed and sent flying, their faces pale. Zhuowen happened to take 3 steps back, avoiding the trajectory of the black shadow's ascent. Chapter 2398. Escape. This black shadow was a huge pill furnace. It was as black as ink, sparkling and translucent, as if it was carved out of jade. Moreover, the reason why Zhuowen was so shocked was mainly because the shape of this pill furnace was almost exactly the same as the shape of the pill fire in the pill tower. Zhuowen wanted to ask the Pill Emperor Turtle about it, but the turtle's eyes lit up the moment it saw the cauldron. It jumped up and landed on top of the cauldron. The pill furnace was sealed, but the Pill Emperor Turtle moved to the bottom of the pill furnace as if it was familiar with it. Then, it jumped into the pill furnace. Not long after, the huge pill furnace automatically shrank to the size of a palm. Soon after, it slowly landed on Zhuowen's palm. Zhuowen, hurry up and take us away. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape. The Pill Emperor Turtle transmitted its voice. Zhuowen was startled, and his face turned ugly when he saw Palace Master Jingyun and the others rushing over. Was the Pill Emperor Turtle treating him as an errand boy? However, no matter how unhappy Zhuowen was, he didn't dare to act recklessly at this moment. He wasn't a match for Palace Master Jingyun, and there were 12 powerful half-step virtual Sky Ninth Steps experts. He knew that once he was surrounded, he wouldn't be able to escape. Thinking of this, Zhuowen immediately took out the space-time wheel, and his whole body turned into an afterimage, disappearing from the spot. When Palace Master Jing Yun and the others arrived, Zhuan had already disappeared without a trace. The space-time will speed was too fast. Even a life enlightenment realm expert like Palace Master Jing Yun couldn't catch up. Damn it, who is this kid? A mere virtual sky seventh step, and dares to snatch the life or death pill from our hands. The crabapple old man's eyes were gloomy, and he was unwilling to accept this. If I'm not wrong, he should be Zhuowen. The black-robed man beside the crabapple old man said indifferently, the Zhuowen who killed Lu Xinhal's group. The crabapple old man asked in surprise. The black-clothed man nodded noncommittally and didn't say much. Instead, it was the crabapple old man who revealed a contemplative expression. In fact, when they discovered that Zhuowen's cultivation was only at the void sky seventh step, they had already guessed it. Now that it was confirmed, they began to think even further. This Zhuowen's cultivation was not high, but he was able to snatch the life or death pill from their hands and even escape. This showed that he was not ordinary. If such an existence was allowed to continue growing, it would definitely be extremely terrifying. It was best not to develop this kind of person into an enemy. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future. Unless you could nip this kind of monstrous genius in the bud, it would be a very wrong decision to make him your enemy. Humph! How could a mere 7 steps void sky brat obtain something as important as the life or death pill? No matter how heaven-defying this little demon is, I will not let go of this life or death pill, the old man said coldly. The black-clothed man glanced at the crabapple old man. In fact, his words just now were to remind the old man. At the same time, he also wanted to ask for the old man's opinion, indicating that he was actually following him. With the old man and the black-clothed man's statements, the other 10 half-step void sky ninth-step cultivators also expressed their agreement. Palace Master Jing Yun's beautiful eyes flickered, but she didn't interrupt. Instead, she said indifferently, "This place is not safe. I will leave first." After saying that, Palace Master Jing Yun turned into an afterimage and left this area filled with evil spirits. Boom! In the huge pit below, countless evil spirits had invaded and filled it. Suddenly, a terrifying energy erupted, and all the evil spirits in the deep pit were blown to pieces. A miserable figure suddenly jumped out. This figure was none other than Lu Haotian, who had been blasted down by Zhuowen's sun-waning Sunday. At this moment, Lu Haotian was in an extremely sorry state. His whole body was in a mess, and his face was extremely pale. "Where is that little bastard Zhuowen? Where is he?" Lu Haotian said, somewhat losing his mind. The old man and the black-clothed man glanced at Lu Haotian, then smiled at each other. The old man went up and said, "Palace Master Lu, that Zhuowen has a very powerful flying divine tool. He has already escaped." "Where did he go?" Lu Haotian said coldly. The old man frowned slightly, revealing a trace of displeasure. Soon after, he pointed in the direction Zhuowen left and said, "He fled in that direction." Lu Haotian nodded and took a step forward with his right foot. He disappeared from where he was and rushed in the direction Zhuowen left. The crabapple old man and the others looked at each other in dismay and tacitly followed behind LV Haotian. However, not long after Lu Haotian and the others left, the evil spirits in the eastern part of Death Valley suddenly became restless. In the emotionless eyes of these evil spirits, the light of fear suddenly burst forth, as if something terrifying had happened. Then, the tide-like evil spirits retreated to the eastern part of Death Valley, as if something was summoning them. The many cultivators who were struggling to confront the evil spirits all sighed in relief when they found that the evil spirits had retreated. They felt much more relaxed, but there was also a trace of doubt. In front of the army of evil spirits, these cultivators were almost completely defeated. If this continued, the cultivators would be wiped out sooner or later. But now, the army of evil spirits gave up on such a good situation and chose to retreat. Obviously, these cultivators were puzzled. After the army of evil spirits retreated, the gap in the eastern part of Death Valley was once again shrouded in thick black fog, as if nothing had happened. Let's go. The other cultivators who were lucky enough to survive all fled. Soon, the strange Death Valley regained its calm. After a while, a slightly fat figure slowly appeared in the originally quiet eastern part of Death Valley. This was a fat man with a fat body. His round face made him look rather comical. After walking out of Death Valley, the fat man looked back at the black fog lingering in Death Valley behind him and said with a smile, "I hope that guy doesn't disappoint me. If he still can't get out with my help, then he's really a piece of trash." After saying that, the fat man quietly left. "Kid, you stepped on Lu Haoyan's face. I'm afraid he won't let you go." Xiao He clicked his tongue in wonder as the thunder fire sword circled around Zhuowen. Zhuowen smiled faintly and said, "Even if I don't step on that old guy's face, we're still enemies." Chapter 23:99. Hide. I'm afraid I'll have to ask that turtle. Zhuowen was also puzzled. Since the Pill Emperor turtle had entered the furnace, it hadn't uttered a single word. Although Zhuowen wanted to ask, since the Pill Emperor turtle didn't make a sound, he knew that it wasn't the right time to ask. Now he had to find a secluded place to hide. The news that the life or death pill was in his hands would soon spread. There were many cultivators entering the divine pill's secret realm this time, and Zhuowen knew that if he didn't hide, he would be easily attacked by a group of cultivators, which wasn't a good thing for him. After finding a secluded valley, Zhuowen opened up an immortal cave that was hard to detect. Outside the immortal cave, he laid down layers of restrictions before entering the immortal cave. While Zhuowen was waiting for the Pill Emperor turtle to wake up in the immortal cave, the cultivators in the divine pill's secret realm were in an uproar. The cultivators who went to the Death Valley last time were only a portion of the cultivators. There were also some who didn't go to the Death Valley because they were slow to get the news or because they were delayed in finding a treasure land. When the surviving cultivators came back and found out that the life or death pill they brought back was taken away by a seventh-step Void Sky cultivator, it naturally caused an uproar. If it was a life-comprehending expert like LV Haotian or Palace Master Jingyun who took the life or death pill, these cultivators wouldn't be in such an uproar. However, the person who had obtained the life or death pill was only an unknown vagrant cultivator at the seventh step of the Void Sky realm. Thus, this matter had become different. Perhaps it could be said that many cultivators were eager to find Zhuowen and obtain the life or death pill from him. For a moment, all the cultivators in the divine pill's secret realm began to search for Zhuowen. If Zhuowen went out now, he would be recognized very quickly and would be besieged. After all, the video of Zhuo, when snatching the life and death pill, had spread like wildfire in the secret realm. Almost everyone recognized Zhuowen and his aura. In a remote desert, a beautiful figure slowly landed on a dilapidated ancient building. This beautiful figure had her eyes slightly closed. Her skin was fair, and she wore a light veil on her face. Her true face was faintly discernible. Wasn't she the Palace Master of Desire Palace, Jingyun? Palace Master Jingyun stopped behind the ancient building. With a wave of her sleeve, she took out a bright flower. The flower floated in the air and gradually enlarged. Then it bloomed. In the center of the flower, beautiful figures appeared. They all landed on the ground. They were the disciples of the Desire Palace that Palace Master Jingyun had taken away. "Master, did you get the life and death pill?" A disciple of the Desire Palace came to the front of Palace Master Jingyun and asked with cupped fists. Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui, who were among the disciples, also looked at Palace Master Jingyun with interest. In their opinion, only Palace Master Jingyun and Lu Haotian were qualified to obtain the life and death pill. However, Lu Haotian had suffered heavy injuries, so they felt that Palace Master Jingyun had the highest chance of obtaining the life or death pill. Unexpectedly, Palace Mistress Jing Yun shook her head. This caused Yao Xiangjuan and the others to be surprised. Marshal, Aunt, did Lu Haotian take it? Yao Xiangjuan asked. Palace Master Jing Yun still shook her head. She looked at Yao Xiangjuan and said, Lu Haotian didn't get it. The one who really got the life and death pill was Zhuowen. He snatched it from our hands. That boy is very bold. Yao Xiangjuan's body shook, and her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of shock. Although she always knew that Zhuowen was very strong, she didn't expect that Zhuowen could snatch the life and death pill from two life comprehension experts. Moreover, he succeeded. In the six desires heavenly domain, there was probably no one below the life comprehension realm who could accomplish such a feat. Moreover, Zhuowen was only a cultivator of the void sky seventh step. It's actually Zhuowen. How is this possible? Zhu Rui was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth. It could be said that Zhu Rui had seen Zhuowen's rise again and again. Since the beginning, Zhu Rui had found that the rogue cultivator, who was only a little stronger than her in her eyes, had become more and more powerful. Now, Zhuowen had actually snatched the life and death pill from a life comprehension expert like Palace Master Jingyun, and he had even succeeded. If Palace Master Jing Yun hadn't told her this personally, she would have thought that someone else had made it up. Let's go. The closing time of the Divine Pill's secret realm is not fixed, but it won't be too long. Use this time to gain experience here. Maybe you can find your own opportunities. Palace Master Jing Yun waved her sleeve, and suddenly petals flew out and fell on Yao Xiangjuan and the others. This is my communication talisman. If you are in danger, break this talisman, and I will immediately appear by your side. The Divine Pill's secret realm is a place of opportunities. If I stay by your side all the time, I will only hinder your development. You can go now. After Palace Master Jing Yun finished speaking, more than a dozen disciples of the Desire Palace bowed respectfully to the former. Immediately, they left with Palace Master Jing Yun's message talisman and headed in other directions to find their own opportunities. Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui were still standing in the same place. Zhu Rui actually wanted to leave, but when she saw that Yao Xiangjuan didn't leave, she could only calm down and wait. Xiangjuan, do you have something to ask? Palace Master Jing Yun slightly closed her eyes and smiled at Yao Xiangjuan. Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes flickered, and then she gritted her teeth and said, Marshal Aunt, I want to ask where Zhuowen went later. Palace Master Jing Yun shook her head and said, You should be familiar with Zhuowen, right? He has a very powerful flying divine artifact on him. That flying divine artifact is so fast that even I can't catch up to it. So, I don't know where he went. Marshal, Aunt, are you going to find Zhuowen? Yao Xiangjuan asked again. Palace Master Jingyun calmly said, All the cultivators in the Divine Pill's secret realm know that the life or death pill is with Zhuowen. Since others are looking for Zhuowen, why can't I? Moreover, I won't let go of the life or death pill. Yao Xiangjuan fell silent, and then she cupped her fists towards Palace Master Jingyun and left with Zhu Rui. Palace Master Jing Yun silently looked at Yao Xiangjuan's back as she left and murmured in a low voice, I'm afraid that Xiangjuan is a little emotional. If there is a chance, it's better to eliminate Zhuowen. Otherwise, it will affect Xiangjuan's future. 2 months later, in the cave, the alchemy furnace in front of Zhuowen finally moved. A golden flame emerged from the alchemy furnace, but this golden flame was extremely weak, and it even looked insignificant. Moreover, it only appeared for a short while before it was extinguished. Then, 4 hooves slowly stretched out from the ground of the alchemy furnace. These hooves were the hooves of a tortoise, and a furtive head stretched out in front of the alchemy furnace. When the head stretched out, the 4 hooves stood up, and the alchemy furnace that was originally sitting on the ground rose up, as if the alchemy furnace had become the tortoise's shell. Chapter 2400. Emperor Pill Furnace. The Pill Emperor Turtle chuckled and said, "Don't you know? This pill furnace is called the Emperor Pill Furnace. It was originally Master Turtle's shell, but because of various reasons, my Emperor Pill Furnace has been used by my master to store the life or death pill. After the birth of the life or death pill, the Emperor Pill Furnace naturally returned to its original owner, which means it returned to me." Saying so, the Pill Emperor Turtle proudly shook the huge pill furnace on its back, and the complacency in its eyes was obvious. "What's the use of your Emperor Pill Furnace?" Zhuowen asked, a little amused. Use? There are many uses. With this Emperor Pill Furnace, I can grasp the location of all the divine pills in the divine pill secret realm. Moreover, I can rely on this Emperor Pill Furnace to avoid or break through many dangerous places. I can even dissolve low-grade divine pills and evolve them into high-grade divine pills. The Pill Emperor Turtle chuckled. Zhuowen looked at the pill furnace on the Pill Emperor Turtle's back and thought of the pill fire in the Pill Pagoda. Pill Emperor Turtle, outside the divine pill secret realm, there is a pill pagoda. Inside the pill pagoda, there is a kind of pill fire, and the shape of the pill fire is exactly the same as your pill furnace. Is that pill fire related to you? Zhuowen asked curiously. The Pill Emperor Turtle looked surprised and said, "Alchemy fire? This is the first time I've heard of it, and I'm not too sure. Maybe it's related to my master. My intelligence was born relatively late, so I'm not particularly clear about many things." Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. Although the Pill Emperor Turtle knew nothing about pill fire, he knew that the pill fire should be closely related to the Emperor Pill Furnace and the Emperor Pill Fire. Of course, Zhuowen still didn't know what the relationship was. "Since your Emperor Pill Furnace is so useful, can you fuse all the divine pills I have into one and help me advance to the 8 steps void sky realm?" With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen took out all the divine pills he had obtained from the cave guarded by Rakshasa and placed them in front of the Pill Emperor Turtle. His eyes were full of hope. The Pill Emperor Turtle glanced at Zhuowen and ignored the numerous divine pills that Zhuowen had taken out. "You've just advanced to the peak of the 7 steps void sky realm. Even if I fuse all the divine pills together and make them strong enough to rival a level 9 divine pill, you still won't be able to advance to the 8 steps void sky realm. Moreover, it's very likely your foundation will be damaged level 9, divine 9 steps void sky realm," the Emperor Turtle solemnly said. Zhuowen was indeed a dragon god, was immortal Pill Emperor Turtle realm Pill Emperor Turtle. This made Zhuowen thirst for power even more. Emperor Pill was realm. Emperor God. Now, the Pill Emperor Turtle's words were like a wake-up call. Zhuowen cupped his fists and thanked the Pill Emperor Turtle. The Pill Monarch Turtle waved his hand and said, "I can help you fuse these divine pills together. You should know that the divine pills refined in the Pill Monarch cauldron are incomparably pure. There are almost no impurities. However, I will refine 10 fused divine pills according to your current condition. The effects won't be too strong. You just have to take them every once in a while. They will only be beneficial to your body. Moreover, they can strengthen your cultivation and bring you closer to the 8 steps void sky realm." Zhuowen's eyes lit up. Then I'll leave it to you. The Pill Emperor Turtle chuckled and waved his little hand. Instantly, the divine pills Zhuowen took out flew over and revolved around the Pill Emperor Turtle. Then the Alchemy Emperor Turtle roared, and the Alchemy Emperor furnace on its back spewed out a fierce golden flame. Like a big mouth, the flame engulfed all the divine elixirs and put them into the Alchemy Emperor furnace. It will take some time to fuse these divine pills. You can go do it yourself. After the Pill Emperor Turtle finished speaking, it slowly closed its eyes and shrank back into the Pill Emperor furnace. The Pill Emperor furnace also became sparse and ordinary. It sat quietly in the same place. Only the golden flames inside the furnace seemed to indicate that this furnace was unusual. Zhuowen sat back down on the praying mat and closed his eyes to meditate. Time flew, and another month passed. The temperature in the cave house rose to an extremely terrifying level. Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged on the praying mat, couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up and looked at the Pill Emperor furnace seriously. Since the Pill Emperor furnace began fusing divine pills a month ago, the heat it emitted became more and more terrifying. Until now, the temperature in the cave house had reached an extremely terrifying level. Even Zhuowen couldn't bear it. What is this guy doing? Zhuowen whispered with a frown. Suddenly, the Pill Emperor furnace, which had been quiet, trembled. Immediately, Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he found that a terrifying flame had erupted from the inside of the Pill Emperor furnace. This flame was like a fire dragon, spiraling up and filling the entire cave house in an instant. The moment Zhuowen realized that something was wrong, he waved his sleeve and quickly unlocked the restriction at the entrance of the cave house. He wanted to escape from the cave house, but he soon found that this speed was too slow. It was too late. Helpless, he took out the phagocytosis and poured his divine power into the phagocytosis. After the phagocytosis expanded to cover all the blind spots of the whole body, the flames suddenly spewed out. Rumble! The flames were extremely terrifying. In an instant, the surrounding valleys began to shake as if the mountains were collapsing. Then, countless cracks appeared in the surrounding valleys, and they turned into ruins in an instant. Bang! A figure rushed out of the ruins in an extremely sorry state. In front of him was a huge black jade seal. Zhuowen looked at the ruins below and cursed in a low voice. What the hell is this Pill Emperor Turtle doing? As soon as he finished speaking, the Pill Emperor Turtle came out with the Pill Emperor Turtle. The Pill Emperor Turtle immediately felt a murderous intent. It raised its head guiltily and met Zhuowen's unfriendly gaze. It coughed dryly and said, "Hee, it was a mistake. It was my first time fusing with the divine pill, so I made some mistakes, but it won't happen again. Here are 10 fused divine pills. Take them." Zhuowen looked at the divine pill in his palm, and his complexion improved slightly. That person looks so familiar. Could it be Zhuowen? Dressed in white and with a black jade seal. Who else could it be other than Zhuowen? Let's go. Let's hurry up and inform the others. After Zhuowen was forced out of the cave house because of the Pill Emperor Turtle, he immediately attracted the attention of the other cultivators near the valley. The moment these cultivators recognized Zhuowen, they secretly sent messages to the cultivators they knew, but they did not alert the enemy. Chapter 2401. Encirclement and suppression. There were 3 cultivators around the valley that Zhuowen was in. Their cultivations were not high, only around the 3rd level of the Void Sky realm. When the 3 of them sent out the message, it also attracted Zhuowen's attention. However, these 3 cultivators were quite far away from Zhuowen, and their cultivations were not high, so Zhuowen did not pay much attention to them. "I'm afraid I can't use this cave anymore." Zhuowen looked at the pill emperor turtle beside him, speechless. This guy was as unreliable as Xiao He. Bringing the pill emperor turtle with him, Zhuowen flew in another direction. He planned to find a secluded place to cultivate. However, not long after Zhuowen flew out, he immediately realized that something was wrong, because on his way, more and more cultivators gathered around him. Although these cultivators seemed to be searching for something, Zhuowen was keenly aware that these cultivators were intentionally or unintentionally casting their consciousness on him. Zhuowen coldly snorted, and his terrifying consciousness spread out. As long as there were cultivators who dared to cast their consciousness on him, Zhuowen would fiercely retaliate. For a moment, many of the surrounding cultivators were clutching their heads, baring their teeth as they growled. It was obvious that they were suffering from the backlash of their consciousness. As for Zhuowen, he immediately took out his time and space wheel, intending to leave this place. The moment Zhuowen activated his time and space wheel, 12 figures rushed over from the surroundings. Following that, 12 terrifying and powerful divine powers came crashing down like a storm, completely sealing off Zhuowen's path. These 12 figures cooperated very well, and not long after, they actually set up a powerful barrier around Zhuowen. It's Old Man Crabapple and the others. I'm afraid this Zhuowen won't be able to escape, even if he has wings. Nonsense. 12 half-step void sky ninth-step experts. And all of them are powerful existences who have lived for countless years. If these 12 people join forces, they would probably be able to fight against a life-enlightening realm expert. No matter how powerful this Zhuowen is, it's impossible for him to escape from the hands of these 12 people. Although many of the surrounding cultivators coveted Zhuowen's life and death pills after seeing the 12 half-step ninth ascension void stage experts led by the old man, they all gave up on the idea of obtaining life and death pills. What a waste of effort. I've contacted so many cultivators during this period of time. Sure enough, they've come in handy. The old man stood not far in front of Zhuowen and looked down at Zhuowen with eyes full of arrogance. Are these cultivators your men? Zhuowen looked around and said to the begonia old man indifferently. The crabapple old man grinned and said, "It's just a cooperative relationship. We only need to pay a few divine pills. And these people will come to an agreement with us. They will inform us as soon as they see you." Zhuowen nodded. This crabapple old man wasn't stupid. He actually knew how to cast a wide net. You want the life or death pill? Zhuowen asked calmly. The crabapple old man laughed and looked at Zhuowen as if he was looking at an idiot. He said, "What else? A mere 7th ascension void stage expert isn't worthy of the life or death pill. If you know what's good for you, then quickly hand it over." As soon as the old man said this, the other 11 half-step 9th ascension void stage experts also sneered and looked at Zhuowen as if they were looking at prey. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. If he was facing 1 or 2 half-step 9th ascension void stage experts, he wouldn't be afraid. However, he was facing 12 such terrifying experts. Even Zhuowen was extremely wary. What if I say no? Zhuowen slowly took out the king's sword. Sword Qi whistled around him like a gale. The crabapple old man revealed a sinister smile and said, "You don't have the right to say no. Of course, even if you take the initiative to hand over the life or death pill, now, you won't have the chance because you'll die anyway." After saying this, the crabapple old man stretched out his skinny right arm and made a grabbing motion towards Zhuowen. Suddenly, a strange and terrifying energy rushed out like an angry dragon and blasted towards Zhuowen's vitals. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and held the king's sword in his hand. Then he suddenly slashed out. With him as the center, the space around him instantly distorted and collapsed. This was the power of time and space. At this moment, Zhuowen had already mastered the power of time and space. Every move he made contained a terrifying power of time and space. The raging dragon crashed in front of Zhuowen, but it was immediately beheaded by Zhuowen's sword. Then, the powerful space-time power shattered the space around the raging dragon, turning the raging dragon into dust. Attack! The moment the angry dragon was destroyed by Zhuowen, the crabapple old man attacked Zhuowen like a rock spreading its wings. When Zhuowen snatched the life or death pill, the crabapple old man had seen his extraordinary strength. Therefore, he didn't dare to be negligent, and joined forces with the other 11 to encircle Zhuowen. There was no need for the crabapple old man to say anything. The moment the crabapple old man's attack was broken by Zhuowen, the other 11 took action. After all, the temptation of the life or death pill was no small matter. They all wanted the life or death pill. Zhuowen's eyes were full of caution. The encirclement of 12 half-step void sky ninth-step experts was absolutely unprecedented. Not to mention a 7th-step void sky cultivator like him. Even life-comprehending experts wouldn't have experienced such a thing. This Zhuowen is really finished. The crabapple old man and the other 11 are attacking together. This kid is dead, for sure. An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. This kid is too greedy. He actually set his eyes on the life or death pill. He's simply digging his own grave. The moment the surrounding cultivators saw the crabapple old man join forces to deal with Zhuowen, they were all moved. Since ancient times, this was the first time they had seen such a big battle formation. And such a big battle formation was just to encircle and annihilate a 7th-step void sky peak cultivator. Although in the eyes of many cultivators, this white-clothed youth's cultivation was not high, but his strength was terrifying enough. Even so, they still felt that this white-clothed youth would not be able to escape even if he had wings. Zhuowen took a deep breath and immediately took out the Thunderfire sword and Blood Immortal sword. At the same time, he also took out the 9 Extinction Divine, Rune Sword, and Sky-Destroying Meteor, the 2 secondary heaven-breaking divine artifacts. The King's Sword in Zhuowen's hand had already been upgraded to a secondary heaven-breaking divine artifact. All of this was due to the contribution of the Cosmic Flare Basket Stone Mine. Of course, in order to increase the power and quality of the King's Sword, Zhuowen used a lot of Cosmic Flare Basket Stone Mine. It could be said that he was simply squandering it. However, the King's Sword did not disappoint and successfully upgraded. Moreover, its quality and power were much stronger than ordinary secondary heaven-breaking divine artifacts. Damn it, kid, you're making us cannon fodder. Chapter 2402. Killing Intentuan was too lazy to pay attention to Xiao He. This guy was very crafty. When Zhuowen had a fortuitous encounter, he had extorted a lot of resources from him. In addition, Xiao He wasn't simple. Zhuowen knew that this guy's current strength shouldn't be weaker than a half-step 9th-step void sky expert. Even if he wasn't, the gap wasn't big. Now that he was surrounded by 11 half-step 9th-step void sky experts, it was impossible for Xiao He to stay out of this. Just as Xiao He finished speaking, the attacks of the crabapple old man and the others had already arrived. Xiao He cursed inwardly. He could only brace himself and face them head-on. Otherwise, he would really become cannon fodder. Bang! 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 Instantly, Xiao He brought the Blood Immortal sword and intercepted 2 half-step 9th-step void sky experts. As for the remaining 10 half-step 9th-step void sky experts, they were naturally left to Zhuowen. Zhuowen took a deep breath and extended his powerful divine sense. He controlled the 9 Extinction Divine Rune Sword and Space Extinguishing Meteor to face off against the 2 half-step 9th-step void sky experts. The phagocytosis was flipped over by him. It swelled to the size of a small mountain, and a powerful Tao aura spread out. It blocked the two half-step void sky experts at the same time. This time, Zhuowen used all his skills and could only barely block 6 of the half-step ninth-step void sky experts. The remaining 6, led by the crabapple old man, laughed nastily and rushed towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen's gaze turned serious, and he sighed in his heart, now that he was facing 6 half-step ninth-step void sky experts. It was really a bit dangerous. Although he still had 3 servants in the Zhanglan secret realm, their cultivations were far from comparable to the half-step ninth-step void sky experts. Calling them out would only add 3 more cannon fodder. I can't fight them head-on. I have to leave this place first. Otherwise, I won't be a match for the 12 of them. Zhuowen thought of retreating. It wasn't too difficult for him to deal with 1 or 2 half-step ninth-step void sky experts. However, there were 12 of them. It was too much for him. Heaven and earth splitter. When he thought up to here, Zhuowen suddenly raised the Emperor's sword in his hand and slashed at the space before him. Immediately, large swaths of the surrounding space distorted and shattered. It was as if a new world was about to be opened up in the surrounding space. When the crabapple old man and the other 5 step void sky experts, they couldn't help but stagnate. Rumble. Earth, heaven, earth, 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 God, spirit. Zhuowen knew that this move wouldn't be able to stop the 6 of them. He was only borrowing this move to slow down the movements of the old man and the others, paving the way for his next move. At the end of the sea, a red sun slowly rose. The moment the crabapple old man and the other 5 step void sky experts fell into the sea, their bodies trembled and a strong sense of uneasiness rose in their minds. Especially the crabapple old man. After feeling the powerful space-time destruction of the surrounding space-time sea, he quickly thought of the move Zhuowen used to send Lu Haotian flying when he snatched the life and death pill. When this move was first used, the crabapple old man knew that it was a space-time ability. Moreover, it was very powerful. Be careful. This is a space-time ability that this kid comprehended. As long as we block this space-time ability, this kid won't have any other tricks up his sleeve. At that time, it will be easy for us to capture him. The crabapple old man quickly said to the others. The rest of the people who were panicking because of the power of the space-time god ability calmed down after hearing the old man's words. In their opinion, space-time ability was indeed powerful. However, the one who used it was only a 7th step void sky expert. Therefore, they felt a lot more at ease. Let's block this ability together, the crabapple old man said. The crabapple old man spoke once more. It was unknown but in his withered right hand, an ordinary-looking withered branch had appeared. This withered branch was very thin, like a dead tree that fell to the ground. It was very inconspicuous. The moment the crabapple old man took out this withered branch, a withering power came from it. It was as if everything in the world that was full of vitality was gradually declining under the influence of this withered branch. After the crabapple old man used his full strength, the others naturally didn't hold back. They took out their respective divine tools and joined forces to resist the terrifying power of the space-time sea and the powerful destructive power of the gradually rising sun. The sun rose higher and finally smashed on the barrier above. Then, the originally indestructible barrier shook violently under the powerful destructive power of the sun. Not good. This kid's goal is not us, but the barrier. We can't let him destroy the barrier. The crabapple old man's expression changed, slightly. He quickly guessed Zhuowen's intention. With a kick of his right foot, he turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the sun. Unfortunately, the crabapple old man discovered that the closer he got to the sun, the more terrifying the destructive power became. Before the crabapple old man was even half the distance, he had no choice but to give up in the end. The space-time destructive power of the sun was too terrifying. It was too difficult for him to take the initiative to approach. Of course, if the 12 of them joined forces, it would be possible. But now, 6 of them had been pinned down by Zhuowen. The remaining 5 were not the type to work together. They were minding their own business. It was impossible for them to stop the terrifying sun with the crabapple old man. Just as the crabapple old man had no choice but to give up and retreat into the defensive circle of the 5 people, the sea around him suddenly surged with towering waves. They formed 4 high walls, trapping the crabapple old man inside. "Old man, is this a place where you can come and go as you please?" An indifferent voice rang out around the high waves. Then streaks of sword-light shot out from the high waves and blasted towards the crabapple old man. The crabapple old man's expression was unsightly. He recognized that this was Zhuowen's voice. He didn't expect this kid to still have the strength to attack after using the space-time divine art. This was truly unexpected. After all, if a cultivator below the 9th step of the void sky used space-time divine art, it would be very strenuous. After all, if one's cultivation base couldn't keep up, using such a powerful divine art would definitely consume a lot of energy. However, Zhuowen wasn't as strenuous as the crabapple old man had expected. Instead, he could still launch an attack. This made the crabapple old man both shocked and angry. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with killing intent. Among the 12 people, the crabapple old man was the most senior. It was also this old fart who had suggested to encircle Zhuowen. Therefore, if he didn't kill this old fart this time, Zhuowen wouldn't give up. Boom! The crabapple old man continuously blasted out with the withered branch in his hand. The withering power was like the sharpest blade in the world. It actually cut the surrounding space-time waves into countless pieces. However, this was of no use. After all, the space-time sea Zhuowen used was too vast. The fact that the crabapple old man could persist without dying showed that he was much stronger than ordinary half-step void sky 9th step cultivators. After all, Zhuowen's cultivation was merely at the initial stage of the 7th step void sky realm, yet the space-time ability he executed had almost killed Kuang-Li, and he'd even killed the half-step void sky realm 9th step void sky realm expert from Shrine Lu,